Chapter 244. Are you really in the energy cultivation realm? The struggle for the top 30 in the Heavenly List tournament became even more intense than before. At this stage, opponents of the same realm required a long time to secure victory, unless there was a significant disparity in their minor realms. Days passed by. The number of cultivators coming to the Supreme Sect to watch the tournament grew, and the entire Immortal cultivation world was discussing the Heavenly List tournament. Cultivators who displayed their talents in the tournament became famous worldwide and were revered by countless cultivators. After half a month, 15 cultivators remained in the Heavenly List tournament. Xiao Dai from the Supreme Sect advanced again without contest, successfully entering the top 15, causing much discussion among the cultivators. Everyone could see that the Supreme Sect was protecting Xiao Dai, but his Xiao family came from the Seven-Star Spirit Realm, which made many hesitate to openly question him. Leah also successfully entered the top 15, but his condition was worrisome. The high-intensity combat had continuously inflicted internal injuries on his physical body, and fighting between mortal spirits and immortal spirits also harmed the soul. Everything has its pros and cons, and didn't help Leah too much, as he needed Leah to respect the power far beyond his own. Nevertheless, the Supreme Sect had succeeded, as there were no cultivators from the Tsangtian Sect in the top 15. Apart from the Supreme Sect, the best rank among the three dynasties sects was 29th, held by a Taoist lord of the Tsangtian Sect. With two cultivators from the Supreme Sect in the top 15, it solidified their position in the immortal cultivation world of the three dynasties. Another 10 days passed, and only 8 cultivators remained vying for the top spot in the Heavenly List. The Supreme Sect held 2 places, represented by Leah and Xiao Dai, who advanced by default. In the battle of the top 8, Xiao Dai fell in the first match, stopping at the 8th position. Leah, relying on Divine Exotic City, advanced to the top 4, but ultimately stopped at 4th place. His chi was exhausted, and he fainted on the battlefield after just summoning the army of divine soul demons. The disciples of the Supreme Sect weren't disappointed, but rather admired Leah. Leah, barely over 100 years old, shouldered the honor and mission of the entire sect. Reaching 4th place in the Heavenly List tournament was already commendable. In the previous Golden List tournament, Leah encountered Hao early and didn't even make the top 500. This time, winning 3rd place, Guan thought he should have no regrets. As Guan had speculated, the final contenders for the top spot in the Heavenly List were the yellow-robed Immortal Lord and Yan Qitian. Their grand battle lasted 3 days and 3 nights, finally ending with Yan Qitian conceding defeat. The Supreme Sect remained bustling, and the tax revenue from various resource transactions delighted the sect leaders. The first Heavenly List tournament was highly successful. Other sects couldn't easily imitate such grandeur. Only until autumn did the Supreme Sect regain its peace. Before leaving, Leah visited Guan. They chatted for 2 ancient hours before Leah departed with grace. This time, he truly became a hero, gaining great renown. In the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties, his fame overshadowed both the yellow-robed Immortal Lord and Yan Qitian, because he was one of their own and due to his age and legendary experiences. These matters had little to do with Guan. The Heavenly List tournament was just a minor episode for him. What truly pleased him was that the Supreme Sect had obtained the storage bag before the heaven-cutting axe. It was the highest-grade storage bag, containing an immense amount of spirit stones. After calculating, he felt that the Supreme Sect had not deceived him, showing great sincerity. The disappearance of that storage bag also thrilled the higher-ups of the Supreme Sect, as they believed it signaled an even closer relationship with Sword Venerable Fudao. The Supreme Sect acted swiftly, and the roster of the Heavenly List tournament quickly spread throughout the immortal cultivation world, distributed freely. Through the roster, they learned about the origins and formidable cultivation levels of the Heavenly List great cultivators. Unconsciously, the Supreme Sect's image became even grander in their minds. To summon so many immortals for combat, the Supreme Sect was undoubtedly the premier sect in the immortal cultivation world. In the Taizong dynasty, Sangzhou, in the palace garden. Li Xiandao, clad in a dragon robe, sat at a table, perusing the heavenly list and softly praised. The Supreme Sect is ruthless with this move. With this roster, the world will believe the Supreme Sect has the power to summon immortals. Sitting across from him was a woman, Jiang Qiong. Behind Jiang Qiong stood two figures, two ghost cultivators from the Nine, Nether 13 Evil, while behind Li Xiandao stood two great cultivators, one of whom was Yi Luyan, who had once cultivated in Tianya Valley. Jiang Qiong chuckled. Isn't your majesty the one who truly benefits? Prince Li Ya's name is renowned worldwide now. Who doesn't know he is your son? Speaking of Li Ya, her feelings were complex. She and the ghost mother of Ephemera had wandered divine exotic city, nearly dying, only for a younger generation to obtain it. How could they not feel envious and dejected? The most important factor was when she served as the great elder of the Supreme Sect's outer sect, she learned about Gu An's connections. The person Gu and was closest to was Li Ya. This boy was truly fortunate to have such a master with great chi fortune. Moreover, with her around, Guan could live peacefully even without leaving the valley. Thinking of this, Jiang Qiong's lips curled up. Li Xiandao set the heavenly list aside, looked at Jiang Qiong, and said, I have thoroughly understood the strength of the Juhua sect. However, even if I unify the world, the Juhua sect would find it very difficult to overthrow the Supreme Sect status. Jiang Qiong responded, There's no need to overthrow, just standing firm is enough. She had no intention of contending with the Supreme Sect. The true owner of the Juhua sect was Sword Venerable Fudao. Why compete? Besides, Gun was still in the Supreme Sect. Li Xiandao nodded and said, Tianwei can no longer pose a threat. If you can help us conquer the great Jiang dynasty, I will definitely support the Juhua sect during my reign and shape it into a picture of the righteous path. Li Xiandao still held the Juhua sect in high regard. The strength of this sect was quite extraordinary. Jiang Qiong nodded and then continued to voice the needs of the Juhua sect. Li Xiandao patiently listened. The autumn breeze blew, scattering leaves that rose from the garden and drifted into the distance. Time flew by. A leaf fell, descending into Gu An's hand. Another autumn had come. Guan stood by the wooden railing, enjoying the scenery of Medicine Valley. 2 years had passed since the end of the Heavenly List tournament, and Yin Qitian had yet to return, causing Guan to wonder. Yang Jian suddenly approached, holding a long weapon, a three-pointed two-edged blade modeled after Yang Jian's weapon in Investiture of the Gods. Over 2 years, his aura had grown stronger. Even when hiding his cultivation, he appeared formidable and not to be trifled with. Master, a cultivator named Zhou Tongyu has come to the valley entrance, claiming to be your old acquaintance, Yang Jian said, glancing towards the distance. Zhou Tongyu was watching 2 servant disciples play Go. His curiosity piqued. Guan turned and looked at Zhou Tongyu, reflecting. He had killed Zhou Yu. How could he feel indifferent meeting Zhou Tongyu again? Luckily, Zhou Tongyu was unaware of this matter. He stepped towards Zhou Tongyu, with Yang Jian following closely behind. Recalling their first encounter decades ago, Zhou Tongyu had visited the Supreme Sect, sweeping through all disciples under 100 years old. Noticing Gu An's disciple Yi Yin practicing spear techniques, he offered guidance, injuring Yi Yin severely. Guan had to step in. They didn't know each other until they fought. Later, Guan wrote Supreme Immortal Venerable, basing the secondary male character on Zhou Tongyu. He didn't expect Zhou Tongyu to remember him after so many years. Soon, Guan reached Zhou Tongyu, smiled, and said, Daoist friend Zhou, long time no see. Zhou Tongyu turned to look at him, smiling. As arrogant as ever, Zhou Tongyi's unparalleled pride couldn't be hidden. Coming to the Supreme Sect, how could I not visit you? Your Medicine Valley scale truly impresses me. Remarkable, Zhou Tongyu laughed. The two began exchanging pleasantries. Zhou Tongyu came as a representative of the Jueshan sect for an exchange. He wasn't alone. A group of talented disciples accompanied him, though he acted independently. The reason he thought of Gu and was due to an encounter with Gu An's disciple Yi Yin years ago. Your disciple's cultivation level may not be high, but his comprehension of spear techniques is remarkable. He has already grasped spear intent. Zhou Tongyu praised Yi Yin. Yang Jian was curious. Was Yi Yin his senior brother? As he listened, he realized Yi Yin was merely a servant disciple from the valley and had not received genuine guidance from his master. He was a senior brother in name, but not the one his master always mentioned. The master was truly impressive, nurturing a genius with just a few tips. In the end, Zhou Tongji's gaze fixed on Guin, eyes burning. It's been years. Shall we spar again? I will still suppress my cultivation to match yours. How about it? Among his peers, Zhou Tongyu had only lost to two people, LV Xian and Guin, the latter due to suppressed cultivation. Guin feigned hesitation. Suppressed cultivation? Then why not let me fight on behalf of my master? Yang Jian suddenly spoke up. Zhou Tongyu frowned, looking at Yang Jian. Just as he was about to refuse, his heart inexplicably trembled meeting Yang Jian's gaze. For some reason, he thought of LV Xian, that peerless genius of the past. Well, let's see your power then, and whether you can match your master. Zhou Tongyu laughed, his eyes turning aggressive. The two disciples playing Go looked up in anticipation. Guin said, "Let's find an empty place." He patted the heads of the two disciples, refocusing their attention on the game. Zhou Tongyu and Yang Jian followed Guin walking along. Zhou Tongyu inquired about Yang Jian like an elder. Knowing Yang Jian was selected as a servant disciple, he felt relieved. He truly feared this one was a genius Gu and recruited from a noble family. Ordinary servant disciples couldn't be geniuses, as the spirit root testing in great sects was reliable. 30 minutes later, outside Medicine Valley in a forest, Zhou Tongyu clutched his chest, his face full of shock, staring at Yang Jian, who remained in a kicking stance as if looking at a monster. Are you really in the energy cultivation realm? Zhou Tongyu couldn't help but ask. Yang Jian retracted his leg and said, "We both didn't use spiritual power, so what realm doesn't matter, does it?" Zhou Tongyu nearly spat blood at his words. He felt his chest bones were about to break. How could this guy's qi be so strong? Zhou Tongyu himself was a physical cultivator and had even cultivated the evil-suppressing golden body. Chapter 245. Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal. Is it very powerful? Again, Zhou Tongyu gritted his teeth. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't be defeated by a mere servant disciple. It was said that the Supreme Sect's Qi fortune had been soaring in recent years. He didn't believe Qi fortune could defy the heavens to such an extent that even a randomly picked servant disciple could defeat him. What a joke. He was the #1 genius of the Zhou family. Yang Jian waved at him, and this gesture made him even angrier. The two quickly tangled again. Guin could see that Zhou Tongji's physique was special, but unfortunately, he met Yang Jian. Yang Jian's physique was comparable to an ancient treasure body. According to the Immortal seeking Taoist, as long as an ancient treasure body grew smoothly, it would undoubtedly become an immortal king of an era. No matter how strong Zhou Tongji's aptitude was, it was still below the immortal path. 200 years ago, there were no legends of the Mahayana realm on this continent, and even the Mystic Heart realm was known to only a few cultivators. Zhou Tongji's evil-suppressing golden body, compared to Yang Jian's physique, was as different as heaven and earth and posed no threat. Their bodies clashed, fists and kicks met, and their attacks were fierce and as fast as a gale. The blood-prison great saint was attracted over. He stood at the edge of the forest and slowly approached. In the end, Zhou Tongyu, in his desperation, accidentally used spiritual power, forcing Yang Jian back. Yang Jian steadied himself, shook his right hand, and frowned. Facing his gaze, Zhou Tongji's face turned red instantly, and he said, "I admit defeat." Upon hearing this, Yang Jian's frown immediately relaxed. This was his first sparring match since following Gu in an immortal cultivation. He cared deeply about the outcome. If he lost, Wouldn't he be letting his master down? Guan laughed and said, "This kid has brute strength. How can a cultivator rely solely on chi?" It was an advantage for him. Winning or losing doesn't matter. Jinner quickly thanked the senior for his guidance. Yang Jian quickly cupped his hands in salute, sincerely expressing his thanks. The more sincere he was, the worse Zhou Tongji's expression became. Zhou Tongyu noticed a sneaky demon bull wandering in the distance and couldn't help but ask, "Is that bull yours?" Guan thought, "You don't want to spar with the bull, do you?" "Yes, how about it? What do you think of its appearance?" Guan asked with a proud tone, intending to skip over the sparring incident and save Zhou Tongyu some face. Zhou Tongyu pouted and said, "It looks decent, but its shape is a bit awkward." In the distance, the blood prison great saint widened his eyes. Just as he was about to curse, he was stopped by Guan's glare and had to give up. Then, Guan invited Zhou Tongyu to enter the valley for a chat, but he refused, saying he had other matters and had to leave after the spar. Guan didn't insist, watching him leave. Yang Jian scratched his head and asked, "Master, did I offend him?" Guan looked at Zhou Tongji's back and said, "It's all right. Letting him know early that there's always someone better is not a bad thing." Guan still had a good impression of Zhou Tongyu. This guy's actions may be harsh, but his ability to guide those casual cultivators shows a kind heart. The conflict with the Zhou family was hidden and shouldn't affect his relationship with Zhou Tongyu. Zhou Tongji's visit to the Supreme Sect this time was likely an attempt by the Zhou family to mend their relationship with the sect. There was no deep hatred between them. Perhaps they could let things go in the future. "Master, do you think my battle just now had any problems?" Yang Jian humbly asked for advice. Guan didn't hold back and began to critique. The blood prison great saint approached, looking pitifully at Guan. Only after Guan patted his ox head did his mood improve. "He's just a mortal. What are you fussing about?" Guan's words made the blood prison great saint smile widely. The Jueshan sect was a righteous path sect within the Taizong dynasty. During the previous demon disaster, they had also given their all, maintaining a good relationship with the Supreme Sect. This time, the genius disciples of the Jueshan sect came to spar with those of the Supreme Sect, causing quite a stir. Pan-Ans Supreme Immortal Venerable was still very famous within the Supreme Sect. It was no secret that Zhou Tongyu in the book was the same Zhou Tongyu from the Jueshan sect. So many people paid attention to his performance. Zhou Tongyu swept through the Supreme Sect's disciples, showcasing the brilliance of decades past until he met Wu Ju. Without suppressing their cultivation levels, relying on their skills alone, Zhou Tongyu couldn't defeat Wu Ju, solidifying Wu Ju's reputation as a genius. Wu Ju was a genius nurtured by the Supreme Sect after and how, with extremely fast cultivation speed. He had once been a golden list genius. Now, having defeated Zhou Tongyu, he dispelled any remaining doubts and made the Supreme Sect's disciples more hopeful for him. On the night of the full moon, LV Baitian and Guan were drinking together in a room. Wu Ju sees you as his only brother. Leah considers you the most important person. Zhang Buku regards you as his only elder, and in house sister apprentices under you. Ji Xiaoyu, from the Ji family, grew up with you. Even Gu Yu, the son of the Gu Zong, has a good relationship with you. You little brat, and you still say you don't have the ambition to be the next sect leader? LV Baitian glared as he spoke. He truly admired Guan, who could always make friends with geniuses and form excellent relationships. Of course, he can understand why. Guan's genuine nature allowed him to form such good connections. Because of this, he admired Guan, as it wasn't easy to treat everyone genuinely. People tend to favor the promising. As for him, even if he often reminded himself to treat all disciples equally, he wouldn't give a second glance to an average disciple passing by. Guan laughed and said, "Heaven has been kind to me. I honestly don't want to be the sect leader. Nowadays, the Supreme Sect is full of geniuses. Do we still lack a leader? No matter how many geniuses, we can't choose recklessly. The sect leader must command respect. Can my current cultivation level command respect? Before I die, they'll transfer my cultivation to you. Then, you'll directly achieve the mystic heart realm. By the time you're dying, they'll have reincarnated 10 times already. Oh, so you are retreating to advance, wanting me to transfer my cultivation to you sooner? The two began to banter, and Guin wasn't interested in his cultivation. Would I, a carefree, primordial immortal, need your unification realm cultivation level? Just one breath of spiritual energy is stronger than all your lives' cultivation. That night, after LV Batian left, Guin quietly departed as well. Yin Qiqian had finally arrived. Underneath the night sky, Yin Qiqian rode a cloud, gliding past the full moon, looking like an immortal. He was pondering how to face Sword Venerable Fudao. Though he was working for him, the thought of facing the Sword Venerable brought him immense pressure. At that moment, a hand suddenly pressed on Yin Qishan's shoulder, causing his heart to stop. With a roar, the cloud beneath his feet dispersed, and he fell into the forest below. When his feet touched the ground, his heart was in his throat. His mana was surprisingly restrained, leaving him unable to move. What terrifying suppression! For the first time, he felt such pressure, and fear began to grow in his heart. Fortunately, the hand on his shoulder released him, and he quickly turned to see Sword Venerable Fudao, immediately bowing in respect. "Senior, wasn't that a bit too?" Yin Qiqian couldn't help but say, trying to calm himself. He suddenly recalled a recent book circulating in the Star Sea congregations about Sword Venerable Fudao. It mentioned that the Sword Venerable would press on someone's shoulder before killing them. He thought it was just Xian Tiany's whimsicality, but it turned out to be true. Wait, could Sword Venerable Fudao be planning to kill him? Dispose of him after use? Yin Qishan's expression changed drastically as he trembled, completely losing the demeanor of a loose immortal and second rank on the heavenly list. As the saying goes, the higher you stand, the more you fear. Being suppressed so easily by Sword Venerable Fudao, he shuddered at the thought of Fudao's unimaginable cultivation level. How could he not be terrified? Guin spoke. "Where is it?" Yin Qiqian hurriedly took out a scroll from his storage ring, offering it with both hands, nervously replying, "This is collected through the power of my family and master." Though not entirely clear, it should give a general understanding of the seven-star spirit realm strength. Guin made a gesture, and the scroll entered his hand. His divine sense penetrated it, dispelling all the restrictions within. Yin Qiqian nervously stood aside, fearing that Sword Venerable Fudao might suddenly decide to kill him. He didn't dare to flee, as it would be useless. It was better to try to make a good impression. After a while, Guin looked at him and said, "You did well. Our transaction hasn't been leaked, right?" Yin Qiqian quickly replied, "Only my master knows. I mentioned a mysterious senior with a grudge against the seven-star spirit realm wanting information. My master didn't press further. Except for me, no one knows it's you." Guin nodded. Yin Qiqian added, "Senior, dealing with the seven-star spirit realm can't be done rashly. If you're willing, why not join forces with our Star Sea congregations? From the information I've gathered, the cave master of One Star Cave is a heaven and earth flying immortal who achieved it 50,000 years ago. Even our sect hierarch isn't confident in defeating him. Heaven and earth flying immortal, are they strong?" Guin's question left Yin Qiqian speechless. "Are they strong?" Yin Qiqian opened his mouth, suddenly realizing something. Could it be that the other party wasn't unaware of the heaven and earth flying immortal realm, but simply didn't fear any heaven and earth flying immortal? His gaze changed instantly. Looking at Guin, he felt an urge to kneel on the spot. "You did well. Tonight's conversation must not be mentioned to anyone. If you dare to speak of it, no matter where you hide, I will find you, and no one can stop me." Guin suddenly spoke, scaring Yin Qiqian, who immediately bent over and promised. After he finished speaking, Guin stepped up to him and placed 2 fingers on his forehead, making him stiffen and his eyes go vacant. Under the moonlit night, in a courtyard, Ji Xiaoyu was meditating in a pavilion, continuously casting spells, and cultivating some sort of cultivation technique. A figure walked in from the yard, a middle-aged man in a large robe with a stern countenance. He stopped before the pavilion, gazing at Ji Xiaoyu and sighing, "Xiaoyu, have you still not made up your mind?" Ji Xiaoyu did not respond. The primordial Taoist talisman truly is extraordinary, but our Ji family can't protect it. Moreover, now that the Ji family is allied with the seven-star spirit realm, we can only choose to trust them, the middle-aged man said earnestly. Ji Xiaoyu opened her eyes and looked at him calmly, her gaze making him feel uneasy. Chapter 246, Heavenly I Prophecy. Ji Qianquan felt uneasy under Ji Xiaoyu's gaze. Ever since a certain point, he began to feel like he couldn't see through his own daughter. Despite his higher cultivation level, he always felt that his daughter was dangerous. He even suspected that she had been possessed, but after examining her, there were no signs of possession. Ji Xiaoyu slowly spoke. "Father, do you know the origin of the primordial Taoist talisman?" Ji Qianquan frowned and said, "The primordial Taoist talisman is a legacy left by ancient immortals. They choose their master through reincarnation. Those who possess the primordial Taoist talisman have extraordinary talent. With every major breakthrough, they will receive a legacy. Xiaoyu, it was I who introduced you to the primordial Taoist talisman back then. I naturally understand its importance. However, the primordial Taoist talisman is not unique in this world. The development of the Ji family has already hit a bottleneck. We need a force like the seven-star spirit realm to open a path overseas. Sacrificing for the family will not treat you unfairly." Ji Xiaoyu stood up and looked at Ji Qianquan from within the pavilion. The moonlit night was like water, and the cold wind was bleak. Ji Qianquan felt irritated by Ji Xiaoyu's gaze. Just as he was about to speak, he heard Ji Xiaoyu say, "The primordial Taoist talisman in my body gave me a heavenly eye. Do you know what my heavenly eye sees?" Looking at Ji Xiaoyu's extremely cold face, Ji Qianquan felt inexplicably uneasy. He pressed on, "What did you see?" Ji Xiaoyu stepped forward, circled around the stone table, and walked outside the pavilion. As she moved closer to Ji Qianquan, her momentum surged with each step. Her expression was as cold as an immortal in the skies, and her eyes were fixed on Ji Qianquan. I saw the seven stars spirit realm shatter, with countless corpses lying around, blood flowing like a river. I saw the Ji family reaching its end, with the Qilin wailing in sorrow. I saw you, father, your head separated from your body, dying with unfulfilled wishes. Ji Xiaoyu's voice was not loud, nor did her tone drop, but every word shook Ji Qianquan to his core. The primordial Taoist talisman, a result of ancient immortals' cultivation, contained an unknown power. The Ji family was also unaware of the power held by Ji Xiaoyu's primordial Taoist talisman. Ji Xiaoyu stopped on the steps and looked at Ji Qianquan. "If the Ji family only wanted me to offer the primordial Taoist talisman, I might not refuse. But you all want me dead. How do you expect me to agree?" Ji Qianquan remained silent. He wanted to say something, but looking into Ji Xiaoyu's eyes, he felt that any words would be futile. "No matter how you ramble, this matter is settled. You do not have much time left." Ji Qianquan left, flicking his sleeves. Watching his back, Ji Xiaoyu did not get angry. Instead, a look of disdain appeared on her face. Dawn. Yin Qitian opened his eyes and found himself still in the woods. The figure of Sword Venerable Fudao was nowhere to be seen. He recalled the inherited memories in his mind, his expression complex. Breaking path divine light. He hadn't expected Sword Venerable Fudao to bestow an inheritance of divine skills upon him. Although he had previously stated he needed no reward, for Sword Venerable Fudao to do this demonstrated a conduct that he greatly respected. At the same time, he understood that if he publicized this matter, Sword Venerable Fudao would not let him off lightly. Sword Venerable Fudao was a cultivator who clearly distinguished between gratitude and grievances, always keeping his promises. He sensed that the breaking path divine light was highly unusual. It was undoubtedly a rare and great opportunity. After much contemplation, he decided to visit the Supreme Sect. After all, Sword Venerable Fu Dao was in seclusion within the Supreme Sect. Building a good relationship with the Supreme Sect was also a way to show his respect to Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Moreover, he felt this might be an opportunity for him. Perhaps, with the help of the Supreme Sect, his path of immortal cultivation could proceed more smoothly. With that thought, he flew toward the Supreme Sect. On the other side, in the Third Medicine Valley, Gun was leading the disciples in exercises. The sight of over 900 disciples practicing together was quite impressive. Even Yang Jian was practicing earnestly. The autumn air was crisp, and the spiritual energy was abundant. Gun was in a great mood, a smile beaming on his face. Seeing his sunny disposition, the disciples' spirits also lifted. After the exercises, Gun didn't leave, but instead dragged Xiaochuan to play chess. The other disciples wanted to watch, but he refused. Once seated, Xiaochuan eagerly said, "Senior brother, I won't go easy on you. Recently, I've had 17 consecutive wins in chess." He arranged the black and white pieces on the board and made the first move. Gun followed with a move of his own and asked with a smile, "How was your practice going recently? Have you been taking the elixirs I gave you on time?" Xiaochuan was only 3 years younger than him and was nearing his lifespan limit. Gun planned to help him release his cultivation level in the next 2 years. Xiaochuan, unlike Li or Zhenqin, who ventured into the immortal cultivation world, had little ambition and only helped Gun manage medicinal herbs. Yet in Gu An's heart, he held considerable significance. In this lifetime, the one who had accompanied him the longest was Xiaochuan. Their relationship had long since become like family. Xiaochuan casually replied, "It's all right. I've been taking all the elixirs." His focus was on winning the chess game to impress his senior brother. Each time he moved, Gun would make his move quickly, initially not paying much attention. But as time went on, Gu An's speed in playing brought him immense pressure. What made it worse was that Gu An kept expressing concern for him, forcing him to respond, which left him increasingly agitated and frustrated. Of course, Gu An noticed Xiaochuan's frustration. It was intentional on his part. Watching Xiaochuan become frazzled, Gu An found it highly amusing. Suddenly, Gu An asked, "Xiaochuan, would you like to leave the mountain to marry and have children?" Startled by this, Xiaochuan immediately looked up in panic. "Senior brother, do you want to get rid of me?" Gu An rolled his eyes at him and said, "Experiencing various pleasures in life is a must. I'm just suggesting you marry and have children. If you want to come back later, you're welcome anytime. Of course, if you don't like women, that's fine too." Xiaochuan was already 138 years old and had never experienced romantic relationships before. As his senior brother, Gu An felt it was his duty to help him. Although Gu An himself had not experienced romantic relationships in this lifetime, he had tasted it in his previous one, so it wasn't intriguing for him. But for Xiaochuan, it was different. Xiaochuan didn't even read Green Hero Travelogue, so Gu An was somewhat worried about him. Xiaochuan's face turned crimson. "Isn't this inappropriate?" "What's inappropriate about it? When the time comes, they'll give you money. You can buy a house deed when you leave the mountain, and matchmakers will naturally come knocking. Experiencing a couple of decades in a normal life might not be a bad thing," Gu An said softly, placing another chess piece. This move made Xiaochuan's face turn green. Shameless. Playing chess was just playing chess. What was with these underhanded tactics? Xiaochuan's thoughts were disrupted, but he was moved by Gu An's words. In fact, Gu An had a deeper consideration for suggesting he leave the mountain, which was to see if experiencing worldly life could lead Xiaochuan to path enlightenment. Path enlightenment was very mysterious. Even a carefree, primordial immortal couldn't force someone to achieve it at will. The reason path enlightenment could alter one's lifespan was because it gained the essence of heaven and earth. Human life was inherently determined by heavenly destiny. Thus, with Gu An's relentless persuasion, Xiaochuan was defeated utterly in chess. ending in frustration. Guin stood up and said with a smile, "Think it over carefully. Whenever you make up your mind, come to me. Don't worry, we will always be brothers. As long as I'm here, I'll protect you for life." Hearing these words, Xiaochuan's spirits lifted. He turned to look, and Guin had already walked away. For some reason, he felt that his senior brother's arrangement was like preparing for his own impending end. It seemed his senior brother still cared about him a lot. A smile appeared on Xiaochuan's face. Guin also smiled, secretly thinking, "This little one still wants to beat me? Come back after practicing for another 800 years." That day, Yin Qitian visited the Supreme Sect, causing a stir among its top leaders. LV Beitian personally received him, and they had extensive discussions. 3 days later, Yin Qitian left. The Supreme Sect announced that Yin Qitian, second on the heavenly rankings, had become a guest elder of the Supreme Sect. This news excited everyone in the Supreme Sect. It said that Yin Qitian left behind many cultivation techniques and spells, promising that should the Supreme Sect face difficulties, they could summon him with a magic artifact. To show their gratitude, the Supreme Sect began to publicize Yin Qitian's deeds, aiming to make him the top cultivator of the Supreme Sect. Yin Qitian's involvement shook the Immortal cultivation world, putting pressure on various sects and congregations to engage in diplomacy with the Supreme Sect. However, the Zhangtian sect remained silent, with low morale. Autumn passed into winter, the snow blanketing everything. Mystic Valley. Guin stood by the window, appreciating the snowy view. His divine sense enveloped the continent. Dealing with the 7-star spirit realm couldn't be done forcefully, mainly because the realm was too vast. With 5 other caves overseas, he wanted to capture them all, but it was challenging. It was easy to alert other overseas factions or great cultivators. So he planned to first eliminate the 6 Stars Cave and 7 Stars Cave on the continent. Guin could detect their minor heaven and earth, waiting for a disturbance in the 7-star spirit realm before making his move. Since the appearance of Divine Exotic City, many oceanic cultivators have been traveling on the continent, including the Star Sea congregations, frequently clashing with the 7-star spirit realm. Guin intended to strike the 7-star spirit realm during a major upheaval caused by the Star Sea congregations, eradicating their key cultivators, ending the realm's presence on the continent. By then, the Star Sea congregations would likely advance north, pressuring the 7-star spirit realm to focus away from the continent. Today, Guin suddenly sensed a peculiar power brewing in the 7-star spirit realm, piquing his curiosity. He saw the essence of that power, further heightening his anticipation for the upcoming developments. Indeed, this world is full of hidden talents, so many secret forces. Guin thought to himself as he turned and sat back at his desk, picking up the Supreme Secret Records. Reading many books eventually reveals what is classic. Classics are those that never grow tiresome. He turned page after page, like witnessing the rings of a tree. 3 years quickly passed by. Guin's lifespan once again surpassed tens of millions of years. On this day, he closed the Supreme Secret Records, stored it in his storage bag, then stood up and walked out of the attic. The summer sun was scorching, insects incessantly buzzing, the sunlight shining on Gu and reminding him of the scene when he first entered Mystic Valley at 15. He fixed his gaze, seeing Lu Jujia instructing newly arrived servant disciples. In Guin's eyes, Lu Jujia's back gradually merged with Zhang Chunkius. 100 years had passed, and though things had changed, some marks remained. Guin smiled and began contemplating which magic artifact to use in the upcoming war. Simply crushing with mana seemed too dull. Chapter 247. Reincarnation does not permit you either thinking it over. Guin decided to use the Heavenly Residence Sword. The Heavenly Residence Sword was a divine sword gifted to him by Li Ye, one of the 3 Emperor Swords of the Taizong dynasty. Although the Emperor Sword was not very useful to him now, the elegant form of the Heavenly Residence Sword made it worth using. Guin also thought of Lu Lingjun, who wielded 2 swords in battle, and felt that he could try using a two-handed sword as well. He had no pressure dealing with the 6 Stars Cave and 7 Stars Cave of the 7-star spirit realm. Guin went downstairs and made his way to Lu Jujia, who quickly saluted him and introduced 2 new disciples. The 2 servant disciples were very nervous in front of Guin, not like Lia and Meng Lang, who were impatient with Cheng Xiandan and Zhang Chunqiu back in the day. The current status of the supreme sect in the Taizong dynasty was far beyond what it was 100 years ago, now being the top sect in the continent's immortal cultivation world, second only to the legendary Holy Land. Guin did not adhere strictly to the rules, but instead gently encouraged the 2 new disciples, leaving them pleasantly surprised. After he left, the 2 disciples were filled with anticipation for their upcoming life in the Mystic Valley. Guin did not head to the 3rd Medicine Valley, but walked toward the mountains and forests outside the valley. He appreciated the scenery along the way and realized it had been many years since he last experienced the surroundings of the Mystic Valley on foot. Back then, he raced around the mountains with Xiaochuan, and life was carefree. To feel such nostalgia after just over 100 years, imagine what it will be like in 10,000 years. Guin suddenly thought, then adjusted his emotions, preparing to invade the 7 Stars Spirit Realm. Today, the 7-star Spirit Realm was about to undergo a significant change, presenting the perfect opportunity for him. Sunlight poured into the courtyard where Ji Qinquan and numerous members of the Ji family stood, chatting and laughing. A number of cultivators floated in the distant sky, each like an immortal, showcasing their unique styles. This Ji mansion, located atop a solitary mountain, covered an area of over 10 miles. Thick fog swirled below the mountain, resembling a vast ocean, with peaks emerging from the sea of clouds, akin to immortal Taoist practice grounds. The sea of clouds stretched endlessly, as if this place truly was above the 9 heavens, with the sun directly overhead. Ji Hantian leaned against the courtyard door with his arms crossed in front of his chest and eyes closed. Judging by his furrowed brows, his mood was not good. Ji Qinquan came to Ji Hanian's side, smiling. "Grandpa, the auspicious hour is near. Why don't you go outside to greet the Luo family?" Ji Hantian opened his eyes, snorted coldly, and left with a flick of his sleeve. Ji Qinquan did not get angry. He knew Ji Hantian had objections regarding the 7 Stars Spirit Realm, but since it concerned the family prosperity, Ji Hantian would choose to endure. Now that the Supreme Sect was thriving, the Ji family had stopped insisting on Ji Hantian leaving the sect. In fact, they started to support him again, seeing another avenue as beneficial. Ji Qinquan turned back to see Ji Xiaoyu's door adorned with joyous decorations. The sight eased his uneasy heart slightly. Every time he thought of Ji Xiaoyu's words that night, he felt restless and upset. Dong! The loud sound of a gong echoed through the heavens and the earth. A beam of golden light swept in from the horizon, rapidly landing in front of the Ji Mansion's gate. The sounds of hooves and roars came from afar as 9 white horses drew a golden carriage along the golden path. 2 female cultivators, resembling fairies, leaned out of the carriage windows, holding baskets of flowers and scattered petals continuously. The petals drifted with the wind, quickly dissipating into magpies that circled in the sky. The cultivators from nearby mountains flew out of their mansions, and some jumped out of the fog below, all wanting to watch the excitement. What a grand spectacle, as expected of the Luo family. I heard Luo Yetian has broken through to the Mahayana realm. Is it true? It should be true. Entering the Mahayana realm after just over 500 years is indeed terrifying talent. Ji Xiaoyu of the Ji family is not simple either. It said she was born with a primordial Taoist talisman and great fortunes. She is a perfect match for Luo Yetian. With the Ji family allied with the Luo family, they are set to rise. If they produce an immortal, it would be even more remarkable. They might even cultivate in the 5 Stars Cave in the future. Each mountain belonged to a different family, but these families were at the lower end of the 7 Star Spirit Realm, incomparable to the Luo family, hence their envy of the Ji family's fortune. At the end of the Golden Path, numerous cultivators rode on magic artifacts, flying in a grand procession that stirred the clouds. They swiftly landed by the Golden Path, stretching all the way to the Ji Mansion's gate. Glancing around, there were at least 1,000 cultivators, all with imposing auras and dressed in golden robes. The 9-horse-drawn carriage halted at the gate. The curtain opened, and an imposing man in a red robe stepped out. He was tall and handsome, with long hair tied in a lotus jade crown, resembling a star lord descended from the heavens. His eyes shone brightly as if they contained the universe. Seeing him disembark, the Ji family cultivators hurriedly stepped forward to greet him. Luo Yetian smiled and asked, "Sister Yu, are you ready?" He had been busy in seclusion, only meeting Ji Xiaoyu once. Sensing the innate aura of the primordial Taoist talisman within her and admiring her exceptional beauty, he had his family propose the marriage. He barely needed to lift a finger. Just one word from him was enough. And, as he expected, the Ji family agreed without hesitation. He chose this year precisely because he had just reached the Mahayana realm. In previous years, his mind was solely focused on advancing to the Mahayana realm, and Ji Xiaoyu was merely a thought, not worth occupying his entire mind. An elder of the Ji family smiled and said, "She is ready and can depart anytime." Luo Yetian nodded. "Our Luo family has already invited all the major families from the 6 Stars Cave and the 7 Stars Cave, and even some seniors from the 5 Stars Cave to attend. This wedding will surely be grand. Rest assured, we are one family now." He spoke appropriately without arrogance, making the Ji family cultivators smile and thank him repeatedly. He looked up at the Ji mansion, anticipation showing in his eyes. He could already sense the aura of the primordial Taoist talisman. Meanwhile, in the courtyard where Ji Xiaoyu resided, Ji Qingquan urged her from outside the door. "The auspicious hour has arrived. Don't keep the Luo family waiting," Ji Qingquan said, knocking on the door. The door opened at that moment. Ji Xiaoyu, clad in a phoenix crown and cloud robe, stepped out accompanied by 2 female cultivators. The veil covered her face, revealing only a snow-white chin, and her hands were clasped before her stomach, comporting herself with grace. Seeing she was already in her wedding attire, Ji Qingquan heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. "Xiaoyu, what you worry about might not happen. There may be a turnaround. The Luo family has even invited great cultivators from the 5 Stars Cave. They might be able to help you," Ji Qingquan said softly. Ji Xiaoyu passed by him, stopping suddenly. "Crossing this door, our father-daughter bond ends." Ji Qingquan frowned. "What nonsense are you talking about? I will always be your father, and the Ji family will always be your home." Ji Xiaoyu said nothing more, stepping forward. Accompanied by the 2 female disciples of the Ji family, she left the courtyard. Ji Qingquan watched her back and exhaled deeply. Over the past 3 years, he had feared any mishap in this marriage, so he had been guarding Ji Xiaoyu closely. He quickly followed, not resting assured until he delivered Ji Xiaoyu to the Luo family himself. Outside the mansion gate, a disciple hurriedly came out to inform the Ji family's higher-ups that Ji Xiaoyu was coming, causing smiles to bloom on everyone's faces. They had long heard of Ji Xiaoyu's dissatisfaction, but such was the fate of noble families, where marriages served the family's interests. During the wait, a cultivator of the Ji family asked Luo Yetian about the rumored world-destroying sea tide's validity. Luo Yetian pondered and said, "I heard it upon emerging from seclusion as well. Such rumors have spread across the seas, but the truth is uncertain. At least 100 years from now, it seems unlikely. Beyond that, no one can say." The surrounding cultivators began to murmur, discussing the matter. After a while, many cultivators from the Ji family walked out of the gate, with Ji Xiaoyu in the center, surrounded like the moon among stars. Upon seeing her, Luo Yetian smiled. Just then, Ji Xiaoyu stopped and tore off the red veil from her head, igniting it in her palm until it quickly turned to ashes. Her expression was icy cold, eyes fixed on Luo Yetian, with a faint smile on her lips. Luo Yetian felt uncomfortable under her gaze and frowned. What do you mean by this? The surrounding Luo family cultivators also frowned. Was Ji Xiaoyu about to oppose this marriage? Quickly bring another red veil, the clan leader of the Ji family ordered, looking at Ji Qingquan with a dissatisfied expression. Before Ji Qingquan could speak, Ji Xiaoyu soared into the sky, hovering 100 meters above. The Luo family cultivators didn't stop her, curious about her intentions. Did she plan to cancel the marriage in the 7-star spirit realm? A red pattern appeared on Ji Xiaoyu's forehead, the runes of the primordial Taoist talisman. As the power of the talisman surged out, her aura transformed drastically. You mortals disturb my rebirth process. How utterly vexing, Ji Xiaoyu said, frowning slightly. Her voice resonated through the skies, her tone coldly indifferent, making the Ji family cultivators find her unrecognizable. Luo Yetian, sensing something, ascended to her level and asked suspiciously, "Who exactly are you?" One by one, the Luo family cultivators appeared in the air, surrounding Ji Xiaoyu. The sky and sea of clouds churned, forming thunderclouds. A towering figure appeared within those clouds, like a giant god standing in outer heaven, overlooking the world. Ji Xiaoyu did not look up, but calmly gazed at Luo Yetian. Some karmic entanglements are beyond your reach, disturbing my cultivation. Even reincarnation will not pardon you. Boom! An immense pressure erupted from Ji Xiaoyu, and golden flames emanated from her forehead, rapidly forming a 100-meter-tall silhouette behind her. The figure looked exactly like her, but radiated an aura surpassing the Mahayana realm. Ji Xiaoyu raised her hand, grasping at the sky. The phantom behind her mirrored her movements, shattering the thunderclouds with one hand. Within her palm, an awe-inspiring figure appeared, the same one from earlier, now filled with fear. Before he could speak, golden flames engulfed him. In an instant, he was incinerated, leaving no trace behind. Chapter 248. Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal, One Sword to Sever. Impudent. Seeing Ji Xiaoyu summon a phantom that directly annihilated the great cultivator of the Luo family. The other Luo family cultivators were instantly enraged. They each brought out their own Dharma treasures, prepared to kill her on the spot. Luo Yetian was about to speak when the phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu suddenly erupted with golden flames, sweeping in all directions. The cultivators from all directions were too late to dodge and could only instinctively use spiritual power and mana to resist. As the golden flames swept past, the entire world suddenly changed. The sky turned crimson, and countless meteors fell from the distance. Each meteor stirred up a shockwave, creating a breathtaking spectacle. Ji Xiaoyu stood high above, a trace of blood seeping from the corner of her mouth, but her brows did not knit together, remaining indifferent. The phantom behind her ignited with golden flames, and the Tao patterns on its forehead flickered with a strange light. She raised her right hand to her mouth, muttering something, and layers of golden glyphs burst forth from her body, expanding rapidly to dominate the entire sky in less than 3 breaths. I didn't expect the primordial Taoist talisman to contain will. I wonder which ancient predecessor it is that we have disturbed. An elderly voice rang out as an old man in a gray robe appeared, blocking in front of Luo Yetian. Luo Yetian quickly raised his hand to salute him, his demeanor respectful. The old man in the gray robe did not turn around, his gaze fixed intently on the golden phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu. A loose immortal is not enough. Ji Xiaoyu's voice rang out once more. The gray-robed old man's face changed dramatically, and he immediately took out a jade staff. Boom! A horrifying wave of golden flames rushed towards him. The gray-robed old man used his mana to resist, but Luo Yetian behind him still felt the searing pain. This pain was not just on the surface. Even his soul felt the agony. How was this possible? Who exactly is she? Luo Yetian thawed in disbelief. The Ji family members below were equally astonished. Was Ji Xiaoyu's primordial Taoist talisman really containing such terrifying power? Ji Qingquan suddenly remembered what Ji Xiaoyu had told him 3 years ago, and a chill ran down his spine. The gray-robed old man, possessing loose, immortal cultivation, couldn't withstand the vast golden flames. Blood spots appeared on his skin, as did on Luo Yishan's behind him. The other Luo family great cultivators attacked from different directions, but their mana quickly dissolved as it approached the golden flames, unable to harm Ji Xiaoyu. The mountains trembled as if they were about to collapse, startling the cultivators in their caves. More and more people flew into the sky, looking at Ji Xiaoyu in disbelief. Under their gaze, the golden phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu raised its right hand, drawing cracks across the sky with its fingertips. Where her hand stopped, the space along the path shattered instantly, golden flames coiling around the edges of the space rift, forming a gigantic halo. The blood spilling from Ji Xiaoyu's mouth increased, but her eyes remained calm. The golden phantom behind her drew a giant golden fan from the halo, its surface shaped like maple leaves, covered with glyphs, as if hiding numerous worlds. As the giant golden fan descended, the world began to collapse. Space twisted and shattered, clouds dispersed, and giant peaks crumbled. The cultivators residing in this land scattered like headless flies in extreme panic. Retreat with the people. The gray-robed old man's voice was low and solemn as he resisted the golden flames, having transformed into a man of blood. Luo Yetian behind him was slightly better, but his skin also began to ulcerate. Luo Yetian gritted his teeth, just about to turn and leave. At that moment, the golden phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu suddenly swung the fan. A wave of burning flames swept across half of the sky, vaporizing all the cultivators along the way. Gray-robed old man and Luo Yetian couldn't escape. As the flame wave passed, both of them turned into light stars, their bodies and souls annihilated, scattering like falling sparks. This scene left the Ji family cultivators and other clan cultivators stunned and terrified. Ji Xiaoyu tilted her head, looking down at Ji Qingquan. The Ji family cultivators were extremely tense, not daring to meet her gaze. Everyone within the Ji family knew that the family had planned to sacrifice her. She didn't truly wish to marry. With so many dead from the Luo family, how will the Ji family live in the future? Ji Xiaoyu's icy voice reached the ears of the Ji family members. Ji Qingquan, Ji Hantian, and the others felt a chill rise from their hearts, spreading throughout their bodies. Ji Xiaoyu's eyes began to fill with blood, quickly turning blood red. Xiaoyu, what exactly do you want to do? Ji Hantian quickly asked. Apart from the Luo family, no other families had suffered from the golden flames, making other clan cultivators silently sigh in relief. Ji Xiaoyu's eyes, now blood red, raised to look towards the horizon. At the end of the world appeared a massive black rift from which silhouettes flew out, rapidly approaching. These figures all had an aura stronger than the previous gray-robed old man. A horrifying killing intent locked onto Ji Xiaoyu. Ji Xiaoyu raised her right hand, and the golden phantom behind her mirrored the motion with its giant golden fan. At that moment, a figure appeared before her. Her eyes widened in surprise, showing clear shock despite the blood covering them. Gu, and wielding the 9 extremes yin-yang body, stood before Ji Xiaoyu. Guin stood beneath the fan, looking up at the giant golden fan, filled with curiosity about this treasure. Sword Venerable, my power won't hold for long. Ji Xiaoyu's voice sounded tired. The golden phantom's arm trembled, the fan moving closer to Guin, unable to withstand the power of the heaven and earth flying immortal. Guin focused, using lifespan detection on the heaven and earth flying immortal. Earth Gang Divine Lord, first layer of heaven and earth flying immortal realm, 1-290-80/23000/2500000, a heaven and earth flying immortal who had lived for 12,000 years. Guin took a step, crossing the distance of two formidable powers, appearing in front of the Earth Gang Divine Lord. The Earth Gang Divine Lord's face changed dramatically, disbelief showing on his face. Sword light flashed, sword chi burst forth. With one slash, Guin annihilated the Earth Gang Divine Lord, body and soul, in an instant. The terrifying force even pushed back the Golden Phantom. The Golden Phantom, holding the giant fan, looked at Guin's back, its features changing, clearly startled by Guin's power. I underestimated you, Sword Venerable. I look forward to meeting you again, Ji Xiaoyu's voice sounded. Immediately after, the Golden Phantom scattered, merging into the primordial Taoist talisman. The primordial Taoist talisman tore through space and quickly disappeared. Guin turned to see the Ji family cultivators retreating. Amid the crowd, Jihan Tian seemed to sense something and looked back, meeting his gaze. At that moment, Jihan Tian felt a mix of shock and guilt. He was shocked at Sword Venerable Fudeo's invincible presence in the Seven Stars spirit realm, and guilt-ridden for seemingly disappointing the Elder. He had always thought that the righteous path inscribed on the heavenly repair platform was left by Sword Venerable Fudao, hoping he could lead the supreme sect onto the righteous path. The fiery aura in the sky surged like tidal waves. A blink of an eye later, Jihan Tian could no longer see Sword Venerable Fudeo's figure. Guin took one step across space, arriving at a vast white jade square where thousands of disciples of the Seven-Star Spirit Realm were meditating, all facing a grand palace ahead. No one noticed Guin's arrival. Guin's gaze shifted to the palace, feeling the presence of another heaven and earth flying immortal hidden within. Chapter 249. If the heavens don't take you, I will in the palace. The sound of preaching continuously echoed, immersing the cultivators in the plaza, making it difficult for them to extricate themselves. Guin, holding his twin swords, stepped forward. Against the Seven-Star Spirit Realm, he did not intend to reach the level of exterminating everyone. He only wanted to slaughter the high-ranking members to disperse the Seven-Star Spirit Realm on this continent. If he were to annihilate the entire Seven-Star Spirit Realm, the surrounding major forces would undoubtedly become more wary of him, possibly drawing even stronger entities. Guin walked among the disciples of the Seven-Star Spirit Realm. With each step, he resisted the preaching sound from the palace. The disciples behind him awakened one by one. Seeing Guin, they were startled, hurriedly got up, took out their magic artifacts and divine weapons, and prepared for battle. Guin continued to walk without looking back or pausing his steps. Who is he? What does he intend to do? I can't see through his cultivation level. We shouldn't act rashly after all. There's a divine lord stationed here. Could he be someone from the Star Sea congregations? No, this seems like the Demon Shadow divine skill, a cultivation technique from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion of the Taizong dynasty. I have seen it before. The one who mastered it fully is the Sword Venerable Fudao, residing in the Supreme Sect, Sword Venerable Fudao. These 4 words made the disciples in the plaza tremble with fear. How could they not have heard of Sword Venerable Fudao, who even forced the Cave Master Divine Soul, true Lord of the Six Stars Cave, to retreat? It was said that after that battle, the Divine Soul, true Lord, disappeared and no one knew where he went. There were also speculations within the Seven-Star Spirit Realm that the Divine Soul True Lord was killed by Sword Venerable Fudao. No matter the claim, the strength of Sword Venerable Fudao was something the Seven-Star Spirit Realm dreaded. The disciples in this plaza were either geniuses or nobles of the Seven-Star Spirit Realm. They knew some inside information. For example, startling Immortal Lin from the Lin family died at the hands of Sword Venerable Fudao. Instantly, more and more disciples in the plaza woke up. Regardless of their high cultivation levels, none dared to approach Guin, let alone stop him. Before long, Guin arrived in front of the palace steps. Being closer, he could better appreciate the majesty of the palace, exuding a Taoist intent Gu and had never felt before. This Taoist intent could make it easier for one to comprehend Taoist sorcery, indicating that the materials of this palace were not simple and might contain some powerful formation. There was only one person inside the palace, a heaven and earth flying immortal. Stronger by a few degrees than the previous Earth Gang Divine Lord. It had to be known that the strongest beings in the 6 Stars Cave and the 7 Stars Cave were only in the wandering immortal realm. Now, 2 heaven and earth flying immortals had emerged, indicating that the 7 Star Spirit Realm had long been prepared. Fortunately, Guin had not rashly come before. He dared to come now because he was certain that the 7 Star Spirit Realm did not have a carefree primordial immortal. The Starseed congregations were unlikely to deceive him. After all, if the 7 Star Spirit Realm had a carefree primordial immortal, how could they allow the Starseed congregations to oppress them so? Sword Venerable Fudao, what kind of irreconcilable enmity do you have with my 7 Stars Spirit Realm? An elderly voice echoed from within the palace, resounding in this heaven and earth. Hearing his voice, the agitated disciples in the plaza calmed down one by one. This was a senior from the 5 Stars Cave, renowned overseas, surely capable of subduing Sword Venerable Fudao. Since the 7 Star Spirit Realm had many minor heaven and earths, and they existed separately without being connected, the battle in the minor heaven and earth where the G family resided could not be felt. They were unaware that a heaven and earth flying immortal had already fallen at Guin's hands. They did not know, but the heaven and earth flying immortal inside the palace was very clear about it. Raising the demon ancestor, creating evil demons, and toying with mortals, do you still wonder if there's a grudge? Guin's voice rang out, changing the expressions of all the cultivators in the plaza. Although they had vaguely heard of it, it was still hard to accept when Sword Venerable Fudao tore away the disguise of this sin. After all, the 7 Star Spirit Realm prided itself as following the righteous path. Boom! The palace doors swung open. A strong wind howled out, blowing the demonic chi on Guin and forcing back all the disciples in the plaza. A figure walked out from the depths of the palace, a man in a feathered robe with a valiant face, a white crane's shadow swirling behind him, his whole being exuding immortal aura. He walked to the steps, looking down at Guin from above. You, covered in demonic chi, have come to seek justice in a holy land. Don't you find it laughable? The feathered robe man asked indifferently. 10,000 miles, Divine Lord, heaven and earth flying immortal realm. Third layer 158082/26000/3100000 and looked at the prompt in front of him, unmoved. He could feel that 10,000 miles Divine Lord was stalling for time. Several heaven and earth flying immortals were rushing over. This was precisely what Guin wanted. Guin responded, Demon is not demon. Immortal is not immortal. If the heavens won't judge you, I will. 10,000 miles Divine Lord laughed aloud as if he had heard a grand joke. That demon ancestor is formed from the chi fortune of heaven and earth. It can only be killed, not abolished forever. To suppress it, how many disciples of the 7 Star Spirit Realm have guarded here for generations? The evil demons are vile beyond measure. To seal it, how many lives has the 7 Star Spirit Realm lost? Sword Venerable Fudao, do you know how many enemies the 7 Star Spirit Realm has repelled to protect the environment of this continent? How many disciples have been buried in the ocean? You only see the suffering of the mortals on the continent, but have you considered how much the 7 Star Spirit Realm has sacrificed? 10,000 miles Divine Lord spoke vehemently, his words stirring the emotions of all the cultivators in the plaza. Indeed, others might not know, but being disciples of the 7 Star Spirit Realm, how could they be unaware of the 7 Star Spirit Realm's long-term defense of the continent? Each of them had close relatives or friends who had died in battles with ocean forces and demons. They looked at Guin with expressions full of anger, as if Guin was the sinner. Guin stood in place, quietly watching 10,000 Miles Divine Lord. When 10,000 Miles Divine Lord finished speaking, he suddenly asked, "The evil demons on the continent have been eliminated by me. Why, then, are there other evil demons in your hall?" The plaza fell silent instantly, all eyes fixed on 10,000 Miles Divine Lord. 10,000 Miles Divine Lord coldly replied, "Nonsense. Must I let you enter the hall to check?" Rumble. Rolling thunderclouds swiftly covered the sky. Vast auras descended. 10,000 Miles Divine Lord visibly relaxed a bit. "My seven-star spirit realm is the holy land established by the Immortal Path Holy Court in the mortal world. How could you, an evil demon, slander it? Laughable, one who dares not reveal his true self, yet dreams of toppling the seven stars spirit realm single-handedly. Killing our divine lord of the seven stars spirit realm. Today will see you eradicated without reincarnation. For hundreds of thousands of years, how many beings have been saved by my seven-star spirit realm? Do you think you can shake it? Whether one is righteous or demonic, it's not for you to judge." One after another, majestic and imposing voices resounded like thunder, startling the disciples in the plaza. They all looked up, their faces full of shock. Strong lights emerged from the swirling thunderclouds, piercing through the sea of clouds and illuminating the sky and earth. At the same time, snow began to fall over the continent. In the height of summer, snowflakes drifted down from the sky, causing all beings on earth to wonder. In the third Medicine Valley, the disciples stopped what they were doing and looked up at the snowflakes filling the sky. Yang Jian stood in front of the wooden railing, reaching out to catch a snowflake. It quickly melted, turning not into water, but a wisp of white gas. "This is," Yang Jian frowned, sensing an elusive aura from the snowflake. This aura intrigued him, and he immediately reached out to grab more snowflakes. Yu Ying, who was playing chess with an Xian, looked up. "Snow in summer. What kind of omen is this? I've never seen it before," an Xian muttered. Yu Ying reached out, catching a snowflake. It turned into a wisp of white gas and dissipated. Her expression changed slightly, and she whispered, "Heavenly snowfall. Snow turning to gas. This is abnormal. Could it be the legendary sign of an immortal's fall?" An Xian asked curiously, "What is the sign of an immortal's fall?" Yu Ying replied, "I've heard that when a high Tao level immortal falls, heaven and earth would produce an anomaly as a testament to their lives' cultivation achievements. An immortal's fall? Is it on this continent or overseas?" An Xian asked curiously. Yu Ying looked up, her eyes complex, and answered, "Probably on this continent." Throughout the Supreme Sect, any cultivator exposed to sunlight was discussing this sudden anomaly in heaven and earth. Yilan also stepped out of her room and into the courtyard. She looked up with furrowed brows. Miles away, Wu Ju was similarly affected. Yet he seemed to attain an almost mystical state, as if comprehending something. In the great Jiang dynasty, in the Juhua sect, Jiang Qiong and the ghost mother of ephemera stood on the cliff's edge, reaching out to catch snowflakes, a sign of an immortal's fall. It appears the conflict between the seven stars spirit realm and the Starseed congregations has reached an irreconcilable point. A high Tao level immortal has fallen, the ghost mother of ephemera said, frowning with worry. Jiang Qiong smiled. "The more fiercely they fight, the better it is for us." Despite her words, she felt an inexplicable unease, as if something bad was about to happen. In the seven stars spirit realm, the thundercloud spread, forming a giant vortex. A golden mirror floated in the vortex, its edges carved with patterns of various divine beasts. The mirror's surface a deep blue, surrounded by crimson flames. Immortal Path, Supreme Treasure, the Seven Stars Mirror. In front of the Seven Stars Mirror, a figure floated. He wore a long purple robe, with two fiery red orbs hovering over his shoulders like suns. Behind him was a crescent moon, from which wisps of spiritual energy emanated, forming colorful clouds around him. He looked down at Guin from above. Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning, Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. 7th Layer 1870-34/420000/490000. Guin looked at this man's lifespan with slight satisfaction. In this heaven and earth, a total of 7 heaven and earth flying immortals had appeared. Besides the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning, the cultivation levels of the others were all below the 6th layer, except for one who had reached the 5th layer of the heaven and earth flying immortal realm. With the appearance of the 7 stars mirror, the entire minor heaven and earth was sealed. Creatures outside could not enter, and those inside could not escape. The disciples in the plaza bore unimaginable pressure, falling to their knees and painfully gazing at the sky. The high-standing 6 heaven and earth flying immortals remained indifferent to the disciples' suffering. So did 10,000 Miles Divine, lord in front of the palace doors. He took out a divine weapon, a silver spear about 10 feet long, with a black flag just below the spearhead, depicting a demonic shadow. All 7 heaven and earth flying immortals focused their gazes on Guin. At this moment, Guin seemed to be resisting the entire heaven and earth. Chapter 250. Arrogant Sword Venerable. Do you still have reinforcements? The divine light of the 7 stars mirror was so brilliant, illuminating the expressions of all the disciples of the 7 stars spirit realm on the square. At this moment, the disciples of the 7 star spirit realm also realized that something was wrong. The high and mighty heaven and earth flying immortals seemed to be preparing to abandon them. For a while, cries, pleas for mercy, sobs, and curses kept ringing out. But Guin, who was being stared at by the 7 heaven and earth flying immortals, was looking at the 2 treasure swords in his hand. The Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning looked down at Guin and asked, "Do you have anything else to say?" Sword Venerable Fudeo's origins were mysterious, and he could even slay heaven and earth flying immortals, so the Realm Master couldn't help but feel some dread. He feared that there might be even more terrifying beings standing behind Sword Venerable Fudao, so he didn't act immediately. If he had no backing, he would not let Sword Venerable Fudao go today. Guin raised his head, looked up at the 6 heaven and earth flying immortals in the sky, and asked, "Are your people all here, or do you still have reinforcements?" As soon as these words were spoken, the faces of the 7 heaven and earth flying immortals all changed dramatically. Arrogant. They had lived for hundreds of thousands of years and had never seen such an arrogant person. With the Immortal Path's supreme treasure overhead and 7 heaven and earth flying immortals working together, could he dare to be so arrogant? The Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning thought of many possibilities in an instant. He even thought that Sword Venerable Fudao might be at a higher realm than the heaven and earth flying immortals. But then he dismissed the idea, thinking how could such an ethereal existence be hiding in a small corner of this continent? Shouldn't he go to outer heaven to seek the opportunity for the great Tao? Feeling the power of the 7 stars mirror, the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning's eyes flashed with fierceness. Even if someone surpassed the heaven and earth flying immortal realm and killed so many great cultivators of the 7 star spirit realm, this matter could not be let go. He immediately raised his hand. The 7 stars mirror, as high as 10,000 feet, trembled violently, bursting out with even more terrifying pressure. The voices of all the disciples of the 7 star spirit realm on the square came to an abrupt end, and they desperately felt their skin ulcerate and their flesh dissolve. At this moment, a vast power enveloped them, removing the torture they were enduring. They couldn't help but widen their eyes, looking subconsciously for the source of this power, and their gaze fell on Gu and, "Have you recognized it now? Is this the Holy Land you think it is?" Guin's voice rang out, making the faces of the disciples of the 7 stars spirit realm look complicated. They were all the talented disciples of the 6 Stars Cave and 7 Stars Cave, believing they had a great role in bearing the future of the 7 Star Spirit Realm. Yet now, they were being abandoned by the 7 Star Spirit Realm without any fault of their own. How could they accept this? The 10,000 miles Divine Lord also flew under the 7 Stars mirror. The 7 Immortals worked together, their bodies bursting into light, resembling the Big Dipper, suspended under the 7 Stars mirror. Their mana merged with the aura of the 7 Stars mirror, making the pressure of the 7 Stars mirror even more formidable. Guin looked up at them, feeling emotional. So this was the power of the Immortal Path's supreme treasure? He felt that the power displayed by the 7 Stars mirror at this moment had already surpassed that of the heaven and earth flying immortals. Even a great cultivator of the first 3 layers of the carefree, primordial immortal realm would find it difficult to resist. Of course, even if a carefree, primordial immortal couldn't match it, escaping would still be easy. Guin suddenly had a new idea. He asked aloud, "Gentlemen, if I shatter this dark sky, can you bring brightness to this land?" Upon hearing this, the 7 heaven and earth flying immortals frowned. The disciples of the 7 Star Spirit Realm on the square were all stunned. Before they could react, Guin slashed his sword. His right hand held the Heavenly Residence Sword. His wrist rotated with the tiger's mouth facing downwards and the blade slashed upwards. His posture was so casual. This sword seemed to have no powerful momentum. Yet, as the sword slashed the sky, flames and air blasts dissipated. The 7 heaven and earth flying immortals in front of the 7 Stars mirror could not evade and were directly turned to ashes. Boom! The 7 Stars mirror was struck by sword chi, shaking violently. The thunderclouds above were directly cleaved, and sunlight poured down. The tens of thousands of geniuses of the 7 Star Spirit Realm on the square were all dumbfounded, unable to believe their eyes. They had already felt the power of the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning and the 7 Stars mirror. That was a power they couldn't even imagine or resist. Even though Sword Venerable Fudeo's mana protected them, they still thought a fierce battle would occur. But that wasn't the case. One sword to annihilate, crushing and devastating. It seemed as if they hadn't killed the strongest of the 7 Star Spirit Realm, but rather the cloud waves in the sky. The storm swept across the world, and the fierce wind crashed through the spirit mist enveloping the mountains and rivers. One after another, the mountain forests appeared, pressed by the violent gale like turbulent waves, spectacular beyond compare. Only the 7 Stars mirror remained in the sky. The 10,000-foot-high 7 Stars mirror quickly withdrew its aura. The mirror body trembled for a while and then began to fall. You have successfully taken 25,709 years of life from the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning, 7th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. You have successfully taken 10,041 years of life from the 10,000 miles Divine Lord, 3rd layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. You have successfully taken 18,116 years of life from the Divine Lord Shaoling, 5th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. A total of 6 messages appeared in front of Guin, making Guin secretly puzzled. Why was one person missing? Guin remembered that person, named Thousand-Faced Divine Lord, with a cultivation level of the 4th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. He clearly felt that the 7 heaven and earth flying immortals all turned to ashes, and it was impossible for anyone to escape. Could it be that this person had other avatars? If so, why could he still sense their lifespan? Guin's divine sense quickly enveloped the continent and kept expanding, but couldn't find any trace of the Thousand-Faced Divine Lord. This opened his eyes. The Thousand-Faced Divine Lord was quite a character, able to escape from his hands, even more capable than the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning at the 7th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. Guin suddenly gained more than 80,000 years of life. Previously, when he killed the cultivators of the Luo family, he had also gained more than 50,000 years of life. This time, he gained nearly 130,000 years of life, which was quite good, saving him months of effort. The most important thing was to eliminate potential threats. Guin raised his hand, storing the now-shrunken 7 stars mirror in his hand. He probed it with his divine sense, overbearingly destroying layers of restrictions, quickly finding the immortal spirit, and forcibly making it acknowledge him as its master. The storm in the world was still surging. The cultivators on the square looked up, remaining silent for a while before accepting the fact that they had survived. Thump! A cultivator suddenly knelt down, facing Guin, and began to kowtow. With someone taking the lead, others followed suit and kowtowed. Over 10,000 people bowed to Guin, making a rather magnificent scene. It is up to you to change the 7 stars spirit realm on this land. If it continues to be like before, named as a holy land but practicing evil, I will return. Then, it won't be just the high-ranking members who will die. Guin's voice rang out, and he slashed towards the palace with the Qinghong sword in his left hand. Boom! A sword chi swept out, forcefully splitting the palace into two, immediately turning it into ashes. Such overwhelming power at his fingertips made the kneeling cultivators tremble in fear, and at the same time, they felt a fervent admiration for Gu, and Sword Venerable Fudao was not only powerful, but also saved them. How could they harbor resentment? If they were to hate anyone, it would be those high-ranking members who wanted to kill them. At this moment, they all widened their eyes. As the palace turned to ashes, demons flew out. Their aura was all that of evil demons, with male, female, and even demon forms. They wailed and were ultimately obliterated by the wind. Exterminating a group of evil demons did not bring Gu in any lifespan, but it gave the geniuses of the 7-star spirit realm a tremendous mental shock. How could the Holy Land nurture so many evil demons? When they came back to their senses, Guin's figure was already gone. A teleportation array appeared in the distant sky, and countless cultivators surged in. The genius disciples on the square were still in shock, recalling everything that had happened earlier, feeling like they were in a dream. In a dim palace, a woman in a purple dress watched as the 6 oil lamps at the highest point of the wall went out simultaneously. Her eyebrows immediately furrowed. The young ghost boy on her shoulder widened his eyes and exclaimed in shock, "Have the realm masters fallen? How is that possible?" The highest oil lamps represented the pinnacle of power in the 7 stars spirit realm. The oil lamp of the realm master of heavenly meaning was particularly large, like a moon surrounded by stars. At this moment, a figure appeared out of thin air beside the woman in the purple dress. As soon as this person appeared, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. He immediately sat down to cultivate energy, suppressing the chaotic chi and blood in his body. The woman in the purple dress turned to look at him, her eyebrows furrowing even more tightly. "Thousand-faced divine lord, what on earth happened? Why did the realm masters all fall?" the woman in the purple dress asked. The person cultivating energy was none other than the thousand-faced divine lord who had escaped from Guin's hands. He was wearing a blue robe, with long hair draped over his shoulders, and his face was as delicate as a woman's. At this moment, his complexion was extremely pale, and his lips were still trembling. The 6 Stars Cave was attacked, and the realm masters thought the Star Sea congregations were attacking, so they went to support. We encountered Sword Venerable Fudao from the continent. He annihilated us with a single sword. The power of the 7 Stars Mirror couldn't withstand his sword chi. The 7 Stars Mirror has now fallen into his hands, the thousand-faced divine Lord said tremulously. He opened his eyes, filled with despair, and said, he was too strong. The heaven and earth flying immortals were like dust before him. If I hadn't detected something wrong and used my divine skills to switch my main soul and avatar, I would have died too. Even so, the fall of my avatar brought me enormous backlash, and I will need to recover for the next 10,000 years. Thinking about Sword Venerable Fudao's figure, his body couldn't help but tremble. He then looked at the woman in the purple dress and said, "Second cave master, the 7-star spirit realm is finished. The 7 heaven and earth flying immortals are dead, leaving only you and me. With the 7 stars mirror in Sword Venerable Fudeo's hands, we are powerless to resist the Star Sea congregations. We need to make plans early." The woman in the purple dress was the second cave master of the 7-star spirit realm. After listening to the 1,000-faced divine lord, she fell into silence. Recently, the 7-star spirit realm had been repeatedly suppressed by the Star Sea congregations. She had considered the possibility of their demise, but didn't expect it to come so quickly. In just one day, 7 heaven and earth flying immortals had fallen. Heaven and earth flying immortals were the foundation of the 7 stars spirit realm. Plans? What plans can we have? Moreover, the gate to the divine exotic realm has already opened. Once the catastrophe descends, entangled by karma, escaping to outer heaven would be useless. The second cave master said, her gaze eerie, as if thinking about something. The 1,000-faced divine lord used his power to suppress his injuries and said, "I don't care. I must leave the 7-star spirit realm. I have cultivated for tens of thousands of years and don't want my path to end abruptly. If there is something I can do to help in the future, feel free to ask. But I do not want to fight Sword Venerable Fudao again." He stood up, bowing to the second cave master, then disappeared from the spot. In the dim great hall, only the second cave master and a young ghost boy on her shoulder were left. The flickering candlelight made their shadows look like ferocious demons. Chapter 251. The world changes drastically. A huge trouble in the forest. Guin sat in meditation under a tree, leaning against the trunk, playing with the 7 stars mirror. The 7 stars mirror, which emitted an aura rivaling that of a carefree primordial immortal, became small and exquisite in his hands, looking nothing like an immortal path's supreme treasure. Snowflakes fell through the gaps in the leaves, landing on him and melting into vapor. 7 heaven and earth flying immortals had suddenly fallen, causing the heavens and the earth to mourn, and snowflakes continued to fall. While holding the 7 stars mirror, Guin also used his divine sense to trace the primordial Taoist talisman. He was very curious about Ji Xiaoyu's ancestry and divine skills. When the primordial Taoist talisman fled, he specifically used his divine sense to follow it. Although the primordial Taoist talisman crossed the rules of heaven and earth, hiding in places unreachable by living beings, he could still track it. He noticed that the primordial Taoist talisman did not leave the continent, but returned to the Ji family. However, it was not to the branch family where Ji Xiaoyu was born, but to a branch family located in the Great Jiang dynasty. Guin thought of Ji Xiaoyu's decisive appearance earlier and felt a little sentimental. He did not expect Ji Xiaoyu to go all out directly. That mysterious shadow should be her past life. Ji Xiaoyu seemed to be practicing a method similar to the primordial reincarnation skill. The difference was that while the primordial reincarnation skill accumulated chi fortune and talent through reincarnation, Ji Xiaoyu already possessed great power herself, and she could even summon this power, crossing ages and reincarnations. What would Ji Xiaoyu be like at her peak? He did not know. He just felt it was a pity for Ji Xiaoyu to fall in this life. Third miss, I hope you have good fortune in your next life and are no longer coerced by your family, Guin thought. Seeing that the primordial Taoist talisman still remained in the Ji family, he was very puzzled about the relationship between Ji Xiaoyu and the Ji family. If it was only a relationship in this life, why not reincarnate into a different family? Perhaps he could ask the soul of the branch family, Jizhan. But after thinking about it, he decided against it. That was Ji Xiaoyu and the Ji family's destiny. Why should he interfere, and what reason did he have to investigate? Guin treated everyone around him like this, not prying into their pasts, but cherishing their current companionship. After this battle, he looked forward to meeting Ji Xiaoyu again in the future. By then, would Ji Xiaoyu be another person, or still the third miss of this life? The mirror of the 7 stars mirror reflected Gu An's handsome face. His eyes seemed to cross the vast ocean of time, reaching the other side of destiny. Guin focused on the seven stars mirror. This was a truly well-preserved immortal path, supreme treasure, even stronger than divine exotic city. Even after being attacked by his mana, the seven stars mirror did not develop a single crack. Instinct told him that the seven stars mirror could become even stronger. It was just that the realm master of heavenly meaning and others could only unleash it to that level. He connected his mind with the seven stars' immortal spirit. Immediately, the seven stars mirror began to change, its edges transforming from the shape of a divine beast to floral patterns, and its overall color turned dim. At first glance, it was just an ancient and plain mirror, nothing resembling a supreme treasure. He revealed a satisfied smile, then placed the seven stars mirror into his bosom. He stood up, looking at the still, falling heavy snow, but feeling that the sky had become brighter than before. It's time to go home. The summer snowfall lasted for 7 days. When the heavenly phenomena dissipated, news about the seven stars spirit realm had not yet spread, but the supreme sect had already been alarmed. To be precise, the entire immortal cultivation world of the three dynasties was sending people to investigate, and there were even continuous streams of overseas cultivators arriving, heading for the seven-star spirit realm. But this time, no great cultivator dared to fly over the supreme sect. A great storm was brewing. After Guin returned to the supreme sect, he acted as if nothing had happened, occasionally checking the primordial Taoist talisman to see if Ji Xiaoyu had reincarnated. Life remained leisurely, but Guin felt more relaxed than before. At least the seven-star spirit realm was no more. That's right, it was going to be gone. Guin's divine sense surveyed the ocean, seeing the cultivators from the Star Sea congregations chasing down the seven-star spirit realm cultivators everywhere. It wasn't just the Star Sea congregations. Other major forces were also following to devour the seven-star spirit realm's territory and chi fortune, showing him the scene of survival of the fittest. One day, someone came to visit Guin. It was none other than the Nine-Finger Divine Lord, who served as a guest elder of the Supreme Sect. Although this man was of the second level of the wandering immortal realm, his maximum lifespan reached 800,000 years, and his current lifespan was 180,000 years. He suspected the Nine-Finger Divine Lord had once fallen from a higher realm. When the Nine-Finger Divine Lord first joined the Supreme Sect, it was Guin who had shown him around, leading to their friendship. Chu Jingfeng was still following him for training. Under the tree, Guin and the Nine-Finger Divine Lord sat face to face, with an Xian helping to pour tea. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord smiled and nodded at an Xian, then chatted with Guin, praising him for managing the Medicine Valley in an orderly manner. Since meeting Guin, his heart had become calm. Overseas, no matter where he went, the air was filled with scheming and power struggles. But Guin's Medicine Valley had a sense of tranquility, and he felt this atmosphere was related to Guin himself. He had also inquired about Guin from Chu Jingfeng, and Chu Jingfeng's evaluation of Guin was the same as his own. He definitely wouldn't imagine that I have the cultivation level of the second level of the wandering immortal realm. Also, it's probable he hasn't heard of the term wandering immortal in this short life. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord held the tea bowl, looking at Guin with a smile. Guin raised his bowl as well and smiled back at him. If this old fellow knew I was at the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal, could he remain this calm? Guin thought, finding it very amusing. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord suddenly said, "Lately the world has been unstable. You need to be careful. Try to stay out of the valley as much as possible." Hearing this, Guin frowned and asked, "Senior, has something major happened?" The Nine-Finger Divine Lord hesitated for a moment, then softly said, "To be honest, the holy land of this continent, the seven-star spirit realm, is about to collapse. This will inevitably affect the balance of both the continent and the ocean. Without the pressure of the seven-star spirit realm, it's inevitable that more great cultivators will invade this continent." Guin asked in surprise, "How could that be possible? That's a holy land." The disadvantages of destroying the seven-star spirit realm hadn't escaped Guan's consideration. But there were pros and cons to everything. Even if the seven-star spirit realm wasn't destroyed, who knew what calamity it planned next? If it weren't for him, the immortal cultivation world of the three dynasties and the beings of the continent would have long perished in the demon calamity. Guan had a clear conscience. Considering his own safety, he only thought about being a savior. He never shouldered the world's safety. He was first a man, then an immortal. It's indeed incredible. That was a colossus standing for hundreds of thousands of years. I don't know who did it, the nine-fingered divine lord sighed. Guan asked, since the world is about to fall into chaos, why doesn't Senior stay in the Supreme Sect? The ocean is surely more dangerous than the continent, isn't it? He hoped to fully bring the nine-fingered divine lord into the Supreme Sect's camp, so he wouldn't have to deal with some minor threats. Truth be told, killing didn't have that much appeal to him compared to the longevity offered by medicinal herbs. The nine-fingered divine lord nodded and said, I'm planning to stay for a while because I have a suspicion in my mind. What suspicion? Haha, that I cannot tell you, lest you get entangled in karma. Really? Then please don't say it. Though I'm unaware of your realm, your world is definitely not one I can tread. Ha ha ha. Hearing Guan's words, the nine-fingered divine lord laughed heartily. Throughout his life, he had met many people, but few were as calm and open-minded as Guan. Although he hadn't revealed his true cultivation level, even his superficial level was enough to make most core formation realm cultivators go out of their way to please him. Guan was different. Their friendship was one of gentlemen's without any interests involved, making him feel very comfortable. Guan didn't listen to him much. From time to time, he would talk about amusing things in his valley. Though plain, they had a unique flavor to the nine-fingered divine lord. Having stood atop the clouds for so long, occasionally looking at the lives of mortals was quite nice. Later, Guan invited the nine-fingered divine lord to play a game of Go. After explaining the rules just once, the nine-fingered divine lord understood. At first, the nine-fingered divine lord's moves were messy, but after about 40 moves, he started to develop his own strategy. From blind defense to strategic preparation, he improved rapidly. Guan became interested and started playing seriously. In the end, he won. The defeated nine-fingered divine lord was not angry. Instead, he looked at the board with interest, savoring Guan's strategies. Interesting, let's play again, the nine-fingered divine lord said, looking up. Guan then called out to Xiaochuan, who was passing by, asking him to play, stating that Xiaochuan was better than him, making Xiaochuan raise his chin. The nine-fingered divine lord didn't care who his opponent was as long as they knew how to play. Thus, the two began to battle on the Go board, attracting other disciples to watch the excitement. Yang Jian stood by Guan, watching the game. He wasn't interested in Go. He preferred Chinese chess with its more straightforward and intense battles. However, he could sense the nine-fingered divine lord's profound aura, indicating that this person was very powerful, prompting him to watch the excitement. They played until dusk, and Xiaochuan was dazed. The nine-fingered divine lord stood up contentedly, looked at Guan, and said, "All right, I need to go to the main city of the sect. He'll come back later for another game. I think this Go contains the true meaning of Tao. Good game." His gaze fell involuntarily on Yang Jian. Oh, the nine-fingered divine lord's eyes changed immediately. Although Yang Jian had concealed his cultivation, the nine-fingered divine lord could tell at a glance that Yang Jian's physique was special. Guan quickly said, "You already took away Chu Jingfeng. Don't even think about taking my disciple. He is with me for life." The surrounding disciples looked at Yang Jian with complex expressions. Could Yang Jian really be a genius? Yang Jian echoed, "That's right. I will serve my master for life and will never acknowledge another master." Next to him, an Xin showed a look of envy, thinking of her own master in her youth. If she had extraordinary talent, would her master have been willing to keep her by his side? But then she let it go, thinking her senior and how had exceptional talent, but still couldn't stay with the master. The nine-fingered divine lord gave Yang Jian a deep look, then turned his gaze to Guan and said, "Your disciple is indeed extraordinary. Make sure he stays in the Medicine Valley and doesn't descend the mountain. Otherwise, he might cause you trouble." After speaking, the nine-fingered divine lord leaped into the air, like a white crane flying toward the horizon. His words made the surrounding disciples look at Yang Jian with even more curiosity, but Yang Jian remained calm and indifferent. "'Cause my master trouble? Provoking my master, that would be the real trouble." Chapter 252, The Influence of Sword Venerable Fu Dao. For the Medicine Valley, the matter of the nine-fingered divine lord was just a small episode, which did not affect the daily life of the valley. Instead, Yang Jian's status grew higher, and other disciples began to show him respect. If Yang Jian becoming Gu An's disciple might have been due to Gu An's favoritism, now even the nine-fingered divine lord favored him, indicating that Yang Jian was truly a genius, merely unrecognizable to the ordinary eye. Early the next morning, Guan rode the Blood Prison Great Saint to Tinya Valley. In the coming month, all the Medicine Valleys would enter a period of harvest, which he looked forward to greatly. Time quickly reached the end of summer. A piece of news suddenly stirred the entire Immortal cultivation world, sweeping through the Supreme Sect like a storm. The news came extremely abruptly. Guan had just returned to the Mystic Valley when he heard disciples within the valley discussing. This morning, a cultivator swept across the sky above the Mystic Valley, announcing a grand event that shocked the world. The demonic tribulation originated in the holy land of the seven-star spirit realm, where Sword Venerable Fu Dao descended to the realm, slaying demons and reconstructing the holy land. The amount of information contained in this event was immense. Even the servant disciples at the bottom of the Immortal cultivation world were intensely discussing it. Seeing Guan return, Lu Jiujia immediately approached him to inform him of this matter. "I never thought the demonic tribulation was secretly orchestrated by the Holy Land. No wonder they did not intervene in previous calamities," Lu Jiujia said angrily. The scandal of the seven-star spirit realm reminded him of his previous experiences within the Supreme Sect. Could it be that there is no absolutely pure righteous path in the world? Guan listened attentively, and when he heard Lu Jiujia praise Sword Venerable Fu Dao as invincible in the world, he smiled and echoed the sentiment, appearing as a worshipper of the Sword Venerable. After chatting for a long time, he hurried to Outer Gate City. Because he had gone to Ninshu Cave Mansion last night, he did not bring the Blood Prison Great Saint. On his way to Outer Gate City, Guan saw the figures of many disciples. Recalling 100 years ago, seeing disciples outside the Outer Gate was a rare sight, testifying to the current strength of the Supreme Sect. Upon reaching Outer Gate City, it was bustling with people. The noise filled Guan's ears, and almost everyone was excited, with the name Sword Venerable Fu Dao on everyone's lips. Guan made his way to the Heavenly Repair platform, where there were even more people. However, this time, disciples of the Law Enforcement Hall of the Supreme Sect were stationed at the edges of the platform, temporarily forbidding anyone from stepping on it, with even Xie being driven off. Guan saw circles of people surrounding the heaven-cutting axe, including Ji Hantian and Gu Zong, with Zui Yijian, the guardian of the heaven-cutting axe, forced to the back, looking dissatisfied. He sensed several familiar auras that he had encountered in the seven-star spirit realm. They were the geniuses he had saved from the seven-star spirit realm, now kneeling before the heaven-cutting axe, accompanied by loose immortals who were explaining the transformation of the seven-star spirit realm. Their sincerity was apparent. The seven-star spirit realm had a profound heritage. Destroying the higher echelons was not enough to completely dissolve it, but if the remaining members could rebuild a new seven-star spirit realm for the benefit of all beings, it would be a good thing. Guan's gaze involuntarily turned to Xie. The son of the Demon Emperor had now fully integrated into the Supreme Sect and even became a high-ranking member. Sensing his gaze, Xie glanced back at him, nodding to acknowledge him. Guan nodded in return, feeling somewhat nostalgic, as the two had grown distant over time. He wasn't angry or sad. Some people naturally drifted apart over time, not always from disdain, but simply because they had no common topics after a long period without contact. He did not approach further and instead walked away. Besides Xie, he had many friends in Outergate City. Though most were drinking buddies who could chat, drink, and enjoy an afternoon together were indeed friends. Guan wanted to hear their praises for Sword Venerable Fudao. It wasn't just the supreme sect. All sects under heaven were fervently spreading the news. Sword Venerable Fudao single-handedly ventured into the holy land of the seven-star spirit realm, slaying immortals within, a feat that was thrilling and awe-inspiring. After this battle, no one dared to question Sword Venerable Fudao anymore. People marveled at his strength, overshadowing discussions of the seven-star spirit realm's sins. Most cultivators, upon hearing about the seven-star spirit realm's crimes, at most cursed a few times without feeling disillusioned, as they were accustomed to such events. It was merely that the spirit realm's sins were grander. But Sword Venerable Fudao was different. Each of his actions shook the cultivators. Every time they thought they had overestimated him, he would achieve another earth-shattering feat sweeping through a holy land alone. How exaggerated was that? Immortal cultivation was not like martial arts. The higher the realm, the harder it was to take on many opponents at the same level. The seven-star spirit realm, a holy land hiding immortals, could be swept through by one person. In the following days, Yilan, Zhenqin, Shenzhen, Guyu, Zuolin, Wuzhu, and others came to talk to Guan about this event, each extremely excited. Shenzhen, unable to contain her excitement, wanted to write a book about Sword Venerable Fudao, but was stopped by Guan, fearing she might offend the Sword Venerable. Though he had heard different people praise Sword Venerable Fudao, Guan still enjoyed it each time, never growing tired of it. After the first wave of excitement passed, the immortal cultivation world began to discuss the character of Sword Venerable Fudao. Despite annihilating the high-ranking members of the seven-star spirit realm, he offered them a chance, showing the true nature of an immortal to the world. Mighty and reckless, that was a demon. Strong yet benevolent, caring for all beings, that was an immortal. As the entire immortal cultivation world started worshipping Sword Venerable Fudao, many imitators emerged, some copying his name, others his style. One thing was certain: Sword Venerable Fudao was influencing the immortal cultivation world with his actions. One day, Guan arrived at the mountain god temple on the North Sea Mountains. Besides Sage Xian Miao, there were 3 other cultivators in the temple, seemingly resting there by chance. The 4 were discussing Sword Venerable Fudao. Sage Xian Miao, who mostly stayed there and seldom interacted with people, was shocked upon hearing that Sword Venerable Fudao had forced the seven-star spirit realm to reform. That was the seven-star spirit realm, a behemoth never dared to be provoked or even inquired about by their ancestors of the 3 Pure Ones mountain, almost obliterated by Sword Venerable Fudao. Since the event was confirmed by cultivators of the seven-star spirit realm themselves, many details were revealed, solidifying Sword Venerable Fudao's strength. It was said that Sword Venerable Fudao didn't even use spells or divine skills, but with one sword, he slew 7 immortals of the seven-star spirit realm. Even the 7 stars mirror, the spirit realm's supreme treasure, couldn't withstand one of his swords. Sage Xian Miao felt like he was listening to a story. Why did he feel that Sword Venerable Fudao was stronger than a mountain god? No, both the mountain god and Sword Venerable Fudao were mighty beings above all others. Perhaps they even knew each other. Sage Xian Miao's mind was filled with fantasies. Seeing that the 3 cultivators had no intention of leaving soon, Guan moved to the edge of the North Sea. He stood by the lake, gazing at the vast expanse of water, his divine sense probing the lake bed. Buried at the bottom was the immortal king crown, untouched to this day. Back then, deeming it dangerous, he buried it. Now, Having dealt with the divine exotic city and the seven stars mirror, he felt he could understand the immortal king crown. With a wave of his hand, the lake's surface rippled. The immortal king crown and the short flute capable of summoning the 9, nether 13 evil immediately flew out, landing in his hand. He put the short flute into his storage bag and held the immortal king crown with both hands. Under the sunlight, the dark gold immortal king crown shimmered, the grooves on it giving it an ominous appearance. Guin immediately sent his divine sense into the immortal king crown. Boom! A powerful aura burst forth, ruffling Guin's robes and stirring waves on the lake. It was quite a spectacle, just as expected. The internal restrictions of the immortal king crown were similar to those of the seven stars mirror, but not as complete. Many restrictions were still recovering, indicating that it was a damaged, immortal path's supreme treasure, more damaged than the divine exotic city, lacking even the formation of a new immortal spirit. While probing the restrictions, Guin also learned about the immortal king crown. Besides containing immense power, the immortal king crown could also devour chi blood, accelerating its recovery. The evil emperor was drained of chi blood by the immortal king crown, leaving only his soul. The evil emperor was only at the Mahayana realm, unable to withstand the immortal king crown. But now, Guin at the 9th layer of carefree, primordial immortal could easily endure it. Guin began to refine the crown's master recognition restrictions, making it his own Dharma treasure. The process was complex, but having dealt with the divine exotic city and the seven stars mirror, it was no longer difficult for Guin. An hour later, Guin successfully made the immortal king crown recognize him as its master. He removed the hairband from his head and wore the immortal king crown, tying his hair beneath it. With a thought, the crown transformed from an emperor's crown to a Taoist crown. Despite having many grooves, its reduced size made it less eerie, enhancing his ethereal aura. Guin took out the seven stars mirror and began to groom his hair. The more he looked, the more satisfied he felt. As expected, clothes do make the man, and adornments enhance even a Buddha's appearance. Even with his outstanding looks, fine decorations added to his charm. In the future, pairing it with exquisite robes will enhance my charisma, Guin thought to himself. After all, he was a core formation realm cultivator. Looking good did no harm. Although he aimed to cultivate discreetly, there was no need to live too restrained. If anyone targeted him for his refined appearance and refused to reason, Guin could only reason with them from a 9th layer carefree, primordial immortal's perspective. He wandered by the lakeside, admiring the North Sea scenery until dusk. At dusk, a cultivator flew from the horizon, landing beside him, and asked, "Taoist friend, may I ask which sect you are from?" Guin cast a lifespan detection at the other person. Guhong, Core Formation Realm, 8th Layer, 373/500/950, a very ordinary cultivator. However, 130 years ago, such a person would have been a significant figure to Guin. Guin replied, "I am from the ancient sky sect. What does Taoist friend require?" Guhong, clad in gray, wearing a hat and carrying a long box, looked travel-worn. He glanced at the lake and said, "I heard that the North Sea has shown anomalies lately, with a supreme treasure about to emerge. I wonder if Taoist friend has heard anything about it." Just as Guin was about to respond, Guhong suddenly raised his hand, forming a claw with his right hand, aiming at Guin's heart. Chapter 253, The Same Person. Guhong developed animosity towards you and harbored killing intent. Do you wish to perform lifespan detection on him? Seeing Guhong make a move against him, Guin only wanted to laugh. This fellow was truly vicious, striking as soon as the thought of killing arose, indicating that Guhong frequently engaged in such actions. Unfortunately, this time he chose the wrong opponent. Boom! As Guhong's claw touched Guin's chest, a force exploded, causing dust and stones to fly under Guan's feet and stirring up ripples on the lake, while Guhong instantly turned to ashes. Guan raised his hand, brushed his temples, and continued forward, dispersing the ashes that had been Guhong with a step. The prompt to seize lifespan was directly ignored by him because the lifespan was too short. The North Sea shimmered with the light of a setting sun, and a large fish leaped at the end of the lake, resembling a crescent moon in midair. The sun set and the moon rose. 2 days later, Guan, in the form of a mountain god, arrived at the mountain god temple. The small figure jumped down from the eaves, and Sage Xian Miao, upon hearing the movement, opened his eyes. Seeing it was Guan, he quickly stood up and saluted. How was the cultivation of medicinal herbs going? I need more herbs for my alchemy. Guan landed on the ground and walked towards the courtyard gate, asking. Sage Xian Miao stood behind him, like a mountain, but the posture was very respectful. Not bad, but I wonder how much you need, Sage Xian Miao replied. Then they left the mountain god temple and began to gather medicinal herbs. During this time, Sage Xian Miao narrated the events that had occurred recently, even mentioning who had passed by the mountain god temple. He indeed did not lie. As the carefree primordial immortal, Guan could see the past events here, and Sage Xian Miao did not hide anything. Guan was not interested in the matters he talked about, but he was satisfied with his attitude. Having guarded this place for decades, Sage Xian Miao's attitude remained devout, and Guan felt it necessary to reward him. After Guan finished gathering herbal materials, the two arrived at an open space. He still left half of the herbs for Sage Xian Miao. Sage Xian Miao wanted to discuss Sword Venerable Fu Dao with the mountain god, but he did not know how to start, so he remained silent for a moment. You have been diligent over the years. I am very pleased. Would you like to learn a sword technique? Guan stood on a rock, looked at Sage Xian Miao, and asked with a smile. Upon hearing this, Sage Xian Miao was stupefied for a moment and instinctively replied, Of course I would. Guan raised his hand and pointed his index finger at him remotely. In an instant, Sage Xian Miao fell into a daze. He did not know how much time passed. Sage Xian Miao gradually woke up. When he opened his eyes, he no longer saw the mountain god's figure. The sunset cast dappled shadows of leaves on his face in the forest. Vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword. Sage Xian Miao was shocked. Could such a profound sword technique exist in the world? Moreover, why did this sword technique seem somewhat similar to his family's sword technique? However, he had been cultivating at Three Pure Ones Mountain since childhood. Although he was related to the Taitsong imperial family by blood, he had not delved into the Li family's heritage. The mountain god also knows the sword Dao. I wonder how his swordsmanship compares to Sword Venerable Fu Dao's. Sage Xian Miao couldn't help but think. After hearing about Sword Venerable Fu Dao's prowess, he always speculated about Sword Venerable Fu Dao's cultivation level unconsciously. He had to admit that Sword Venerable Fu Dao's personal charm was indeed compelling, making his heart yearn. Remorseful. How could I be disloyal to the mountain god? Sage Xian Miao struggled to suppress his inner turmoil, but another thought arose within him, a thought even he could hardly believe. Could the mountain god and Sword Venerable Fu Dao be the same person? Before the overseas cultivators invaded, how could there have been two super existences above the seven-star spirit realm simultaneously on the continent? The news of Sword Venerable Fu Dao vanquishing the immortals of the seven-star spirit realm continued to spread. In the following days, the Supreme Sect and the seven-star spirit realm announced their friendship, pledging to protect the people of the mainland together henceforth, setting an example for the righteous path, which established the Supreme Sect as the foremost sect in the immortal cultivation world of the three dynasties. This event greatly enhanced the Supreme Sect's influence, attracting an increasing number of people to join. The autumn wind blew through the Supreme Sect, yet failed to bring desolation there. In the mountains and forests, Guan sat on the back of the Blood Prison Great Saint, turning his head to look at the group of young boys and girls that had just brushed past them, feeling nostalgic. This group of youngsters was led by two adult men, one a village chief and the other a teacher, on their way to the supreme sect to seek the immortal path. Such a scene was rare, especially in the mountains between Mystic Valley and Tinya Valley. Guan looked forward again, asked casually, "What do you think of the supreme sect nowadays?" The Blood Prison Great Saint thought for a while, then said, "Pretty good. It seems to be improving, and it indeed qualifies as the righteous path. Whether it be Medicine Valley or the Outer Gate City, the atmosphere is great." He knew that the Supreme Sect's current prosperity was all due to the one on his back. If the Supreme Sect ever displeased Gu, and today's glory could turn into an illusion at any moment. Having been a steed for a long time, the Blood Prison Great Saint developed some feelings for the Supreme Sect. Although there were some unsavory characters in Medicine Valley, most were not bad overall. Compared to the lower realm sect he came from, the Supreme Sect was more harmonious. Apart from not being strong enough, it matched his ideal place for immortals. He could also feel the Supreme Sect's rising fortune lately and believed that in 1,000 years, its strength would be immeasurable. Qualifying as the righteous path is good enough, Guan said with a soft laugh. One man and one ox walked through the mountains, gradually disappearing into the depths of the forest. An ancient hour later, Guan rode the Blood Prison Great Saint leisurely into Tinya Valley. He sensed the presence of others in the valley. Li Xiandao had arrived. Guan remained unhurried, leisurely progressing forward. Li Xiandao was in a courtyard, drinking tea, with a young boy practicing swordsmanship behind him. The boy seemed to be only 7 or 8, yet his sword movements were fluid and very nimble. Luo Hun stood nearby, his eyes fixed on the boy with the sword, worried he might hurt himself. When Li Xiandao saw Guan from afar, a smile appeared on his face. This kid has become quite ostentatious, but he knows how to enjoy life, Li Xiandao said with amused disbelief. Guan rode a majestic demon pet, wearing a luxurious and exquisite blue robe with an extravagant dark gold crown that made him look very much like an immortal lord of the mortal world. LV Xian, who was meditating at the mountain peak, also saw Guan and was dazzled by his attire. For some reason, there was an aura about Gu and that made him uneasy, an instinctual unease he couldn't quite explain. Seeing Li Zuando's gaze, Guan patted the bull's back, making Blood Prison Great Saint quicken its pace. Soon, Blood Prison Great Saint reached the courtyard. Guan dismounted and quickly walked into the yard. "Uncle, long time no see." Guan raised his hand in a salute. Out of habit, he cast a lifespan detection on the young boy. Li Ling Tian, Energy Cultivation Realm 4th Layer 8/110/8999, a lifespan limit of 8,999 years? That was something. Guan was curious, but his face remained calm. "Indeed, it's been a long time. I've been here for 2 days, waiting specifically to see you before I leave," Li Xiandao said with a laugh. Nowadays, he was in high spirits. The 3 dynasties' contention continued, but everyone could feel the Taitsong dynasty's dominance. In the coming years, Li Xiandao was likely to unify the land, a feat no one had accomplished for thousands of years. Li Zuando's cultivation level also advanced rapidly, nearing the 9th layer of the unification realm. This guy could catch up with LV Batian within a century. The two started a chat. Guan talked about his Medicine Valley in response to Li Zuando's concern, mentioning trivial matters, which Li Xiandao listened to intently. Aside from Gu An's relationship with Li Xiandao was very satisfied with how Gu An managed Tinya Valley over the years. After chatting for a while, Li Xiandao started to tease Gu An about his current appearance, which was vastly different from before. "One must enjoy life when it's going well. Unlike you and senior brother Li, who can stir the world's affairs, I can also live a glamorous life in my small world, can't I?" Guan laughed, touching the immortal king crown on his head as he spoke. Li Xiandao laughed. "It seems your crown lacks gems. Need my help? Or shall I send you a better one?" "A better one? I doubt you can afford it." Guan shook his head to decline courteously, and Li Xiandao did not insist. He waved to Li Lingtian, who immediately ran over, curiously watching Guan looking at his small face. Guan couldn't help but think of 15-year-old Liya. Their brows and eyes were somewhat similar. This is senior brother Gu, who has the best relationship with your brother Liya, Li Xiandao introduced to Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian immediately saluted Guan in a very mature and adorable manner. Guan was about to think of what to give as a meeting gift when Li Lingtian asked, "Senior brother Gu, I heard you wrote Journey to the West. Have you met Sun Wukong?" Guan was stunned, glancing at Luo Han, who looked away. Li Xiandao kept his smile, obviously knowing this all along. It reminded him of the time he had asked Gu about investiture of the gods. Guan suddenly thought, had Li Xiandao known he was Pan and all along and tried to probe him intentionally? But that no longer mattered. Yes, in my dream. In reality, I accepted an apprentice named Yang Jian, Guan replied, patting Li Lingxian's head with a smile. True Lord Erling Yang Jian? Is he powerful? Can I spar with him? Li Lingtian became excited, clenching his little fists. Guan laughed. Of course, but you'll have to grow up first. Li Lingtian nodded obediently, then, like a little adult, said, Senior brother Gu, you must ensure your apprentice trains hard. My uncle says I have the best life grid in the world, and I fear your apprentice might not be a match for me. Li Xiandao gave him a stern look. Your father always taught you to be modest. Li Lingtian complained. Uncle said so, and mother said everything in this world was created for me, so I can be confident. Li Zuando's face turned visibly displeased. Guan found it amusing and said, All right, senior brother Gu will make sure he trains hard. Promise me you'll train well and not fight with others before sparring with my apprentice. Can you do that? Chapter 254, True Yang Jian. False Sun Wukong, hearing Gu An's words, Li Lingtian didn't think too much and directly agreed. Li Xiandao was very unhappy and scolded Li Lingtian. As a result, Li Lingtian got angry and started to talk back. Next came a lesson with a slap. Li Lingtian was picked up by Li Xiandao, hung over his leg, and his butt was spanked harshly. This scene reminded Guan of scenes from his childhood in his past life. The memories of his past life were hazy, as if they were distant recollections. Guan didn't expect Li Xiandao to have this side. He wondered whether Li Ye had been educated in this way when he was a child. However, he could see that Li Lingxian's mother seemed very unusual, and Li Zuando's words about his mother showed considerable helplessness. Guan looked at Li Lingxian's karma and peered into his past. Soon, Guan understood some information. Li Lingxian's mother came from the ocean, with the surname Yang, from a great family. For her, Li Xiandao had deposed the former queen and made her the new queen. He also decided to cultivate Li Lingtian as the crown prince. After peering into Li Lingxian's past, Guan sighed to himself. Having a strong background as a mother indeed allowed for recklessness. However, Li Lingxian's life grid was also extraordinary. He was born overseas, and during his birth, there were thunderstorms that attracted the protection of great cultivators in the family. After his birth, Li Xiandao officially married Empress Yang, and the Yang family even dispatched special guards to protect Li Lingxian's growth. Currently, there were already 2 Mahayana cultivators guarding from afar. Previously, Mahayana cultivators were rare, but now they continuously flowed into the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties. Perhaps the Yang family also saw the potential of this continent and made an advanced bet with Li Xiandao, who was about to unify the 3 dynasties, being a good candidate. Li Lingtian was indeed extraordinary. No matter how much Li Xiandao hit him, he didn't cry. Instead, he stubbornly glared at Li Xiandao. This boy was simply a little demon king, and in the future, Li Xiandao and Li Yu would probably suffer. Uncle, that's enough. The child can be taught slowly in the future. Right now, he didn't actually do anything wrong. It was just his way of speaking. I didn't feel offended. Guan spoke up, giving Li Xiandao a way out. After hearing this, Li Xiandao looked embarrassed. He looked at Guan and said, This boy is naturally strong and has a small mind. It's better not to let him compete with your disciple. lest he really remembers it. Li Lingtian climbed down from his father's leg and hid beside Guan, grabbing Guan's arm and sticking his tongue out at Li Xiandao. Guan could feel Li Lingshan's strength. This boy was only 8 years old, yet it seemed he could easily crush a stone. "It's okay. My disciple is also very strong," Guan said with a smile. Upon hearing this, Li Xiandao could only shake his head and not persuade further. He thought that in this world, only and how could be compared to his youngest son. Even LV Xian was not as talented as Li Lingtian. After that, Li Xiandao changed the topic to talk about Sword Venerable Fudao. At the mention of this topic, Guan became excited and discussed it eagerly with him. Li Xiandao thought he was also an admirer of Sword Venerable Fudao, which was quite normal. Even he, the Emperor of Taicong, felt his blood surge upon hearing about Sword Venerable Fudao's deeds, much less ordinary cultivators with low cultivation levels. After chatting for an ancient hour, Li Xiandao left with Li Lingtian. Before leaving, Li Lingtian waved at Guan and said, "Senior brother Gu, don't let Yang Jian forget this matter. When I grow up, I will come to duel with him." Guan nodded with a smile, secretly looking forward to Li Lingshan's defeat. In terms of ultimate lifespan, Yang Jian's was higher. In terms of age, Yang Jian was older. And in terms of teachers, could Li Lingtian find a master like the carefree primordial Immortal? Given that Li Xiandao treated him well, he would properly guide Li Lingtian to prevent him from straying onto the wrong path. After collecting the medicinal herbs, Guan rode the blood prison Great Saint to leave. After traveling 100 miles away from Tianya Valley, the blood prison Great Saint said, "Master, that boy's chi blood is not simple." He could tell at a glance that Li Lingshan's bones were extraordinary and his chi fortune was special. Indeed, not simple. But do you think he can compare to Jenner? Guan asked casually. Definitely not. There is no one more monstrous than that boy. Mentioning Yang Jian, the blood prison Great Saint sighed deeply. He watched Yang Jian transcend the mundane, which made him revere Guan even more. It was Guan who discovered Yang Jian. Otherwise, Yang Jian might have been as mediocre as other disciples in the valley for a lifetime. The cultivation technique I taught you must be diligently practiced. 1,000 years later, this world might be a completely different place. Even if Mahayana remains powerful, its status will surely be lower than now. Master, rest assured, I will not disgrace you. It's not about disgracing me. You cultivate for yourself. I plan to follow you for life. You Oxhead, are you planning on sticking with me? I hope Master will show mercy. The collapse of the seven-star spirit realm caused greater turmoil over the ocean. When Guan went to Immortal Seeking Island, many people were discussing it. At the private gathering of Sage Tanghai that he attended, those cultivators were also amazed by Sword Venerable Fudao's strength. After this battle, the name of Sword Venerable Fudao spread across the sea, gaining wider fame than on the continent. The turmoil at sea didn't affect the continent. The Star Sea congregations and the surrounding major forces did not dare touch the continent where Sword Venerable Fudao resided. Instead, many cultivators rushed to the continent seeking opportunities. In this context, the continent welcomed peace. Guan's life also became more stable. He focused on planting medicinal herbs, waiting for the outer world cave to yield a harvest. During the waiting period, he continuously expanded the cave, planting more medicinal herbs. Nowadays, he could move the outer world cave, so he felt more secure in planting. Tianqing and Tian Bai helped Tian Yaoer with many affairs, and there had been no incidents in the outer world cave in Yinshu Cave. In the blink of an eye, time flew by. 10 years passed. This year, Xiaochuan released his primordial reincarnation skill, breaking through to the Foundation Establishment realm. His ultimate lifespan reached 286 years, far less than Yilan's. This was related to his attitude towards cultivation. He was not as diligent as Yilan. No matter what, Xiaochuan could at least live another 100 years. After releasing his cultivation level, Xiaochuan bade farewell to Guan. He planned to return to his hometown and experience the life of an ordinary person again. If possible, he would have children. Although Guan did not see him off, he protected Xiaochuan along the way with his divine sense, fearing any mishap. Half a month later, when Xiaochuan returned to his hometown, Guan temporarily shifted his attention away from him. In the middle of summer, the Third Medicine Valley welcomed visitors. Guan personally greeted them and saw a man and woman walking from the valley entrance. Yang Ni, Divinity Transformation Stage, 5th Level 318/1200/1360. Li Ling Tian, Foundation Establishment Realm 9th Layer 18/350/8999. Gu An's gaze fell on Yang Ni. She was Li Ya's mother's younger sister. When the ephemera sect caused trouble back then, she was involved. After protecting Guan for a while, she left. Over the years, Guan would occasionally catch glimpses of her with his divine sense. She wandered all over, cultivating in various places. She occasionally encountered trouble, but on the whole lived fairly well. Yang Ni was dressed in red, with a treasure sword at her waist. Her face was still as delicate. She seemed a bit dazed seeing Guan from afar. The boy she once needed to protect had now become a core formation realm cultivator, and his appearance had also greatly changed. Following Yang Ni, Li Lingtian glanced around, seemingly looking for someone. The 18-year-old Li Lingtian wore white clothes with gold patterns and a golden dragon pearl crown on his head. He had an elegant demeanor. Honestly, Guan thought he was more handsome than Li Ya. The arrival of these two attracted many disciples' attention, but seeing Guan personally step up to greet them, they did not approach. Yang Ni, long time no see, Guan said with a smile as he approached the two. Yang eyed Guan and said, "It's been years, you boy. Your aura has changed greatly. You finally look like a cultivator." Guan smiled and said, "Not too bad." He looked at Li Lingtian, pretended to hesitate, and asked, "You are?" Li Lingtian also eyed Guan, then laughed and said, "Senior brother Gu, it's me, Li Lingtian. I have come to fulfill my appointment." After saying this, his gaze drifted into the distance, searching for Yang Jian. Guan shook his head and chuckled, then invited Yang Ni and Li Lingtian to sit down and chat. However, Li Lingtian insisted on a duel first. Guan had no choice but to call Yang Jian. Then he took them out of the valley to find a secluded place for the duel. Li Lingtian thought Guan was worried about losing face, so he did not refuse. Along the way, Li Lingtian kept staring at Yang Jian with eager eyes, making Yang Jian uncomfortable. 10 years had passed, and Yang Jian's cultivation level had reached the 8th layer of the core formation realm. His apparent cultivation level brought up to the foundation establishment realm. Guan walked in front, chatting with Yang Ni, catching up on old times. She had many things to say upon seeing Guan again. She didn't come with Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian had insisted on coming when he overheard Li Xiandao arrange for her to come to the Supreme Sect. Empress Yang also has the surname Yang, I wonder, Guan suddenly asked. Yang Ni glared at him and said, "Don't ask. We can't compare to the Empress Yang family." Clearly, although they shared the same surname, they were not related. Li Ya's mother, Ms. Yang, was the woman Li Xiandao once loved most. He even gave her the heavenly residence sword. Now Li Lingxin's mother also had the surname Yang, making Guan speculate a lot. Could it be that Li Xiandao was drawn to Empress Yang because of her last name rather than her background? By the way, that boy Li Lingtian has no sense of control. If he hurts your disciple, don't mind. Don't worry. I will be watching carefully and intervene promptly to prevent serious injury. Yang and I reminded. Guan smiled and said, "It's fine. They're both in the Foundation establishment realm. It's normal to get hurt during a duel." If Li Lingtian was about to be beaten to death, he would also intervene. Behind them, Li Lingtian looked at Yang Jian and finally spoke. "You are called Yang Jian? Why this name?" Yang Jian replied, "Because I liked reading Investiture of the Gods and Journey to the West when I was young. Coincidentally, I also like it, but I prefer Sun Wukong. Is it Yang Jian versus Sun Wukong today? I just don't know if you're the real Yang Jian." Li Lingtian said with a grin. Yang Jian glanced at him and said, I also like Sun Wukong. Whether I'm the real Yang Jian, this fake Sun Wukong will soon know. Chapter 255. Vulnerable Gu and Yang and I, walking in front, could hear the tension in the voices of Yang Jian and Li Lingtian. Guan didn't mind. After all, it was Li Lingtian who first provoked Yang Jian. While he taught Yang Jian to be humble, he couldn't allow him to develop a meek personality that got bullied. Yang and I, on the other hand, didn't expect Gu An's disciple to have such a tough character. For what she remembered, Guan had always had a gentle disposition. However, against Li Lingtian, being too tough could be a disadvantage. Although Yang and I didn't like Li Lingtian, she had to admit that his talent was extraordinarily strong, almost like an immortal descended to the mortal realm. After a while, the four of them reached the woods. Without waiting for Gu and Yang and I to speak, Yang Jian and Li Lingtian had already squared off. Li Lingtian asked, "What rules do you need?" He could see that Yang Jian's cultivation level was lower than his, so he wanted Yang Jian to set the rules. Li Lingtian never liked bullying others. Yang Jian looked at him calmly and said, "Let's just fight directly. It'll show mercy." Although Yang Jian didn't know Li Lingshan's identity, he had to show Guan respect since Yang and I and Guan seemed to be on cordial terms. Hearing Yang Jian's words, Li Lingtian was momentarily stunned. This guy really didn't give in. Li Lingtian didn't think much of it. After all, this was his first battle since he started cultivating, something he had anticipated for 10 years. "Then let's fight." Li Lingtian let out a loud laugh, moved his feet, and a fierce wind scattered the surrounding leaves. He dashed towards Yang Jian like lightning, his legs sweeping out like a long whip, exceedingly fierce. Yang Jian reacted just as quickly, almost instantly lifting his knee to block Li Lingshan's sweeping leg. Li Lingshan's eyes widened, and his smile became ferocious. Yang Jian's strength excited him greatly. "Such fast reactions," Yang and I said, standing next to Gu, and Yang Jian surprised her. Both Li Lingtian and Yang Jian, with merely their speed and reactions, had already surpassed Foundation Establishment realm cultivators. Yang and I even thought she wasn't this strong when she was in the core formation realm. It turned out Guan really had confidence. Li Lingtian leveraged the force to jump back, his body stretching in midair. He punched out, and spiritual power formed a golden dragon shadow that charged at Yang Jian. A dragon's roar exploded, echoing through the woods. Yang Jian didn't retreat. Instead, he advanced, dispersing the dragon's shadow with a wave of his hand and stepping up to Li Lingtian. Li Lingshan's pupils contracted suddenly. Bang! Yang Jian struck Li Lingshan's abdomen with his elbow, causing Li Lingshan's eyes to widen and his mouth to open, spitting out blood. Immediately, Yang Jian's fists and kicks followed like a storm, beating Li Lingshan's body severely, making him feel like a sandbag, unable to stay grounded. "This is impossible." Yang Nis' eyes widened in disbelief. She knew Li Lingshan's strength well. Although he hadn't sparred with others, Li Xiandao had prepared many puppets as grindstones for him. In her view, Li Lingtian had already surpassed the Foundation Establishment realm. If he had not spent so much time practicing spells and divine skills, his cultivation would have reached the core formation realm by now. Such a monstrous talent being beaten so completely? It was unbelievable. Yang Jian's fist and kick speed even made this divinity transformation realm cultivator quite shocked. As Yang Jian engaged in battle, she could sense an extremely dangerous aura from him, something she had never felt before. Although Yang Jian's cultivation level couldn't threaten her, she felt an inexplicable reverence. Seeing that Li Lingtian was about to be beaten to death, Yang and I was about to intervene, but was stopped by Guan. "Don't worry, Jinner knows his limits. This is a good opportunity to temper this prince's character. Otherwise, he'll create too many enemies in the immortal cultivation world with his arrogance," Guan said with a smile. Yang and I glanced at him, looking at his profile, and felt somewhat dazed. Why was he so calm? She suddenly felt that Guan must have gone through a lot over the years she was away. The key question was how such a talented individual could have taken Guan as his master. Yang and I turned her gaze to Yang Jian. She had to admit, at this moment, Yang Jian looked like the true genius, and Li Lingtian appeared so incapable, completely unable to display his talent. Soon, Yang Jian landed, raising his right leg to use his foot to catch Li Lingxian's body. At this moment, Li Lingxian's clothes were torn, his hair disheveled, his face covered in blood, and his body appeared extremely feeble. Yang Jian slowly placed Li Lingtian down with one foot. Throughout, his expression didn't change, as if this battle hadn't given him any sense of achievement. Li Lingtian lay on the ground, barely opening his eyes. Yang Jian stood in front of him, looking down at him. For the first time, Li Lingtian saw someone from this angle, feeling almost crushed inside. He hadn't expected the battle to turn out this way. Yang Jian was faster, his fists and feet heavier, and his cultivation level was lower. He could feel that Yang Jian didn't even use spiritual power, relying solely on speed and qi to beat him. Why was it like this? Could it be that I am not the most talented in the world? Li Lingxian's eyes lost their sparkle, and he buried his face in the ground, his shoulders trembling. He cried. He couldn't accept his defeat. Guan walked over, and Yang Jian quickly saluted him. Seeing Yang Jian's respect towards Guan, Yang Nis' expression became more peculiar. Guan squatted beside Li Lingtian and said softly, "Your talent is indeed rare, but you must always maintain a reverence for the world. Remember, there are always people stronger than you. If your opponent today had been your enemy, you would be dead." Li Lingtian clenched his fists, his body trembling even more violently. Yang and I said nothing. After the initial shock, she even felt somewhat gloating. The whole journey, Li Lingxian's arrogance was unbearable for her, and seeing someone put him in his place was rather satisfying. She didn't like Li Lingtian, and had even less fondness for Empress Yang. Yang Jian remained silent. He felt he wasn't qualified to teach Li Lingtian. The only reason he was stronger was that he had a master that others didn't have. Guan took out an elixir and fed it to Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian slowly got up, turned towards Yang Jian, and even though his face was bloody, his expression was still stubborn. "I won't accept this. I will win next time," Li Lingtian said through gritted teeth. Yang Jian raised his hand, scaring Li Lingtian into retreating behind Guan. But on closer inspection, Yang Jian was simply saluting him. Li Lingtian, both relieved and embarrassed, wished he could find a hole to crawl into. Yang and I laughed. "With your current state, you still dare to challenge him again? Perhaps you should focus on becoming stronger first." Li Lingtian took a deep breath and looked at Guan. "Senior brother Gu, can I stay in your medicine valley?" He wanted to see how Yang Jian usually trained. All his life, he hadn't been lazy, and he even had no friends, dedicating himself entirely to cultivation. But this complete defeat was difficult to accept. "No problem. If you have any issues in the valley, go to Jianer. After all, he's technically your junior," Guan said with a smile, causing Li Lingtian to brighten up. Yang Jian felt a headache coming on. 10 years ago, he had heard Guan mention Li Lingtian, which gave him pressure. Now it seemed Li Lingtian was just like this. His real opponent was still that senior brother he had never met. So, the four of them left the woods and returned to the third medicine valley. The disciples in the valley were curious about what had happened when they saw the previously high-spirited Li Lingtian looking so pitiful. Yang and I didn't stay long. After chatting with Guan for a while, she flew off to the intersect, seemingly carrying out a mission. After handing Li Lingtian over to Yang Jian, Guan went upstairs to read. Until evening, Li Lingtian, now dressed in clean clothes, walked out of his courtyard, not seeing Yang Jian, so he wandered around. Soon, he was attracted by some disciples playing chess and went over to watch. Unfortunately, neither Go nor Chinese chess interested him. His eyes were caught by the passing Blood Prison Great Saint. Blood Prison Great Saint was cursing, frustrated after failing to catch a white spirit rat. Li Lingtian approached and asked, "You, Oxhead, you seem pretty unique. What's your name?" Blood Prison Great Saint glared at him and replied, "Bull Demon King. Ever heard of it?" After speaking, Blood Prison Great Saint continued on, ignoring Li Lingtian. He remembered Li Lingtian. 10 years ago, he thought Li Lingtian might be a remarkable figure. Who knew he'd be helpless in front of Yang Jian? Useless. Li Lingtian stood there, mumbling, "There's Yang Jian and Bull Demon King. Is Master Pewdie also here?" If there was no Master Pewdie, how could Yang Jian be so strong? But he didn't think of Guin as Master Pewdie because Guin didn't seem that strong. On a hot summer day, inside the Imperial study, Li Xiandao sat at the desk, frowning as he read the letters on the desk. After a while, a figure walked quickly in, came to the desk, and bowed deeply. This person was clad in intricate armor, exuding charisma, with a stern face and fierce eyes. This was Yin, a disciple taken by Gu and in the Mystic Valley. After a century, Yin was no longer the ordinary youth he once was, but a general with a formidable presence. Li Xiandao asked, "How much do you know about your master?" Yin frowned and asked, "My master? What happened to him?" He didn't answer immediately. Although he hadn't seen Guin for a long time, he remembered the grace given to him and wanted to protect his master even against Li Xiandao. Li Xiandao waved his hand, sending the letters on the desk to Yi Yin. Yi Yin took them and read carefully. His expression changed dramatically, showing shock. How is this possible? The Crown Prince's prowess is by no means simple, yet he was utterly defeated by a Foundation Establishment realm cultivator? Yang Jian, my master's disciple? Yi Yin muttered to himself. He had met Li Lingtian and even taught him spear techniques. Li Lingxian's talent once made him lament the unfairness of the heavens. He even suspected Li Lingtian was an immortal reincarnate. Last year, Li Lingtian had shown power comparable to the core formation realm. How could such a talent lose to a Foundation Establishment realm cultivator? Li Xiandao pondered. With Guan's abilities, he couldn't have taught such a disciple alone. Do you think someone more powerful is behind him? Though often troubled by Li Lingxian's arrogance, Li Xiandao hadn't expected such a crushing defeat. It left him feeling uneasy. Chapter 256, Former Lord of Divine Exotic City in the Imperial Study. Upon hearing Li Zuando's words, Yi Yin replied, "I am not sure either. When I left that year, I hadn't seen Master make acquaintances with any great cultivator." He was also puzzled in his heart. He felt that Mystic Valley had extraordinary chi fortune. Su Han, who had disturbed the Taitsong dynasty's immortal cultivation world decades ago, was his senior brother. To this day, whenever he thought of Su Han, he couldn't help but feel emotional. Back then, he, Zhen Xin, and Su Han followed Gu into the Third Medicine Valley to cultivate. Who could have imagined that they would each achieve such accomplishments? Although Su Han's life or death was unknown, the commotion he caused had already proven his strength. They were no longer the insignificant minor cultivators they once were. After hearing his words, Li Xiandao did not speak further, but fell into deep thought. For a while, the Imperial Study was engulfed in silence. Each harbored their own thoughts, wondering if there was a powerful figure behind Guin. After a long time, Li Xiandao spoke. "You may leave now. The negotiations with the great Jiang dynasty are nearing conclusion. You need to prepare to go to sea. This matter concerns the 1,000-year plan of Taitsong, and it must not be taken lightly." "Yes." Yin accepted the order, then saluted and left. Li Xiandao gazed out the window, his eyes wandering. "I must advance to Mystic Heart soon, or many things cannot proceed." Li Xiandao thought silently. Compared to Li Lingxian's achievements, he cared more about his own. To this day, only LV-Cien knew that he had hidden his cultivation level, and now even LV-Cien was unsure of his true level. Li Zuando's ambitions were grand. He wanted to be an immortal emperor, eternally in power. For this, he needed strength to protect himself. Li Lingtian suffering this setback was also good. It would make him more diligent in his cultivation, ensuring he didn't create trouble for his imperial authority. Thinking of this, Li Xiandao smiled. Yang Jian, not bad. I will look forward to your future. Under the blue sky and white clouds. Among the mountains, Liu was meditating on the lake. He was bare-chested, surrounded by mist. His hair floated continuously, and his whole body exuded a powerful aura, causing the lake's surface to shimmer like a sword's light. A figure leaped over the towering mountains, descending from the sky and landing on the lake, causing a flurry of ripples. His feet did not touch the lake's surface. It was Zhang Buku. Zhang Buku wore a robe made of animal pelts, his long hair reaching his waist. His entire demeanor was wild. Hands on his hips, he laughed and said, "Brotherly, and how has caused another big commotion recently? Do you want to know?" Leah did not open his eyes, answering, "Go ahead. What has he done now?" The three of them joined the Star Sea congregations together. Although Leah held the divine exotic city and was renowned within the sect, his growth speed could not compare to Enhao. Enhao was the greatest genius in the history of the Supreme Sect, and it was the same in the Star Sea congregations. He made all other geniuses pale in comparison. He has mastered the flame primordial treasure body. It is said that this physique could dominate the mortal world in ancient times. Although the Star Sea congregations have a method of cultivation, he is the first person to succeed in tens of thousands of years. Zhang Buku sighed. Since ingesting a demon core, his talent had also transformed, making him a genius. But compared to Enhao, he still fell short. When they met, it was always awkward since they both came from the Supreme Sect. They had to be polite, but Zhang Buku disliked Enhao. This dislike had no reason. For some reason, looking at Enhao's face always made him feel annoyed, as if he had seen Enhao somewhere before. Leah opened his eyes, frowning. He had always regarded Enhao as his goal, but the more he chased, the more powerless he felt. Enhao seemed to be the protagonist of this world, making everyone else fade into insignificance. The flame primordial treasure body, he had heard of it. Once mastered, the person would transform into a radiant sun, invincible in the world. Zhang Buku continued. The sect is planning to explore the sea-breaking rift today. I have signed up. Are you going? Liu shook his head and said, I still need to improve my cultivation level. I don't want to go. Of course, if you want me to accompany you, it's not impossible. Zhang Buku snorted. I don't want you to come with me. Being with you is too unlucky. I mainly came to tell you this, so you wouldn't be looking for me. Leah glared at him and replied irritably, Hurry up and go. You're the unlucky one. The two started bickering again. When Zhang Buku mentioned Gu-en, Leah conceded. Zhang Buku left satisfied. Leah watched Zhang Buku's departing figure, cursing silently that when Zhang Buku returned, he would give him a good lesson. Another year of the spring festival had arrived. In the Third Medicine Valley, the disciples were busy hanging lanterns and decorations. Li Lingtian was also bustling with the disciples, mainly following Yang Jian. Seeing Yang Jian busy, he had no choice but to follow. In the pavilion, Guan was discussing a peculiar book with Shunjun. The two were expressing their views, arguing vehemently, neither convincing the other. Suddenly, it seemed Guan sensed something, frowning. Shunjun noticed the change in his expression, waved her hand in front of him, and asked, What? Are you angry? Guan shook his head and said, No, I just thought of something and got distracted. Thinking about something? You don't respect me. Shunjun glared angry. At this moment, Elder Lu was frowning deeply, with his right hand holding the go-piece trembling, hesitant to play. The nine-fingered divine lord's expression was calm, but he was internally sighing in relief. This old man's Go skills were too formidable. He almost lost. Since playing Go in the Third Medicine Valley, the nine-fingered divine lord had become fascinated with the game, feeling that it contained infinite mysteries similar to the essence of the heavenly Tao. Therefore, he frequently came to the Third Medicine Valley to play. Go was invented by Guan and had yet to be widely promoted. Currently, It was only popular in the Medicine Valley. Guin created Go merely out of boredom. He did not intend to promote it. Even in his past life, he was simply an enthusiast of the game. At this moment, Guin squeezed through the crowd and saw Elder Lu sweating profusely. He couldn't help but say, "Xiao Lu, why don't I play for you? Shameless wandering immortal, bullying my Medicine Valley mortals? Intolerable." Elder Lu looked up and saw it was Guin, then quickly stepped aside. The other disciples were excited. In their minds, Guin was the best Go player since he invented the game. As Guin sat down, the Nine-Finger Divine Lord smiled and said, "Little friend, do you think there is still a chance in this game?" Guin laughed. "If you came 3 moves later, there would indeed be no hope." The smile on the Nine-Finger Divine Lord's face froze instantly. A wandering immortal's prowess in Go lay in their ability to simulate countless possibilities in an instant, choosing the best moves. From the first move Elder Lu made, the Nine-Finger Divine Lord had already seen the outcome. Knowing the rules of Go, the Nine-Finger Divine Lord could surely win against ordinary folks. However, it was precisely because he could simulate countless possibilities that he appreciated the subtleties of the game. He did not play Go to win, but to experience the process and comprehend his own Taoist sorcery within the game. He did not expect Guin to see through his strategy. Under his gaze, Guin placed a piece on the board, turning the tides instantly, making him frown. He immediately placed a piece, and Guin followed suit. Unlike others who played slowly, these two played at lightning speed. They were competing in their ability to simulate. The disciples around them watched, barely daring to breathe. Li Ling Tian also squeezed in to join the excitement. Seeing the aura of the two playing, he was interested in Go for the first time. One piece after another, the sound of pieces being placed formed a melody, exuding a sharp aura. Suddenly, the Nine-Finger Divine Lord paused, withdrew his hand hanging in the air, placed the piece down, and said, "I lost." As soon as he said this, cheers erupted around them. Elder Lu wiped the sweat off his forehead, revealing a broad smile. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord stared at Guin, as if trying to see through him. Though this boy had an extraordinary aura, his cultivation and physique were not impressive. How did he manage to win? Chapter 257. Variables. Night fell, and fireworks rose in the Third Medicine Valley, brilliant and beautiful. The pavilion area was filled with dining tables, with over 1,000 people toasting and drinking, making for a spectacular scene. Guin ignored the Nine-Finger Divine Lord's gaze and chatted with Yu Ying next to him, inquiring about Lu Lingjun's situation. He had actually always been following up on Lu Lingjun. Lu Lingjun's Ascension sect had already been established and had joined forces with the Supreme Sect to occupy an island. They were currently busy mining spirit mines. Overall, things are going smoothly. Yu Ying had always been in correspondence with Lu Lingjun. In the immortal cultivation world, letters were either exchanged using spells or Dharma treasures or delivered by demon pets. Yu Ying came from the Starseed congregations and had communication means connected with the ocean. After chatting for a while, Guin took the opportunity to leave and went to the Mystic Valley to visit the disciples there. It wasn't until late at night, when the disciples returned to their rooms, that he went to the Ninshu cave to celebrate the festival with Tian Yaoer and the other 2 girls. Unlike others, Tian Yaoer and the 2 girls no longer had family. They would follow him for their whole lives, so every year during festivals, Guin would never forget them. While enjoying the delicacies, Guin was also concerned about Tian Yaoer's cultivation. Tian Yaoer had now reached the 6th level of the divinity transformation realm. It was not slow progress at all. She was already talented, and with the continuous consumption of medicinal herbs and elixirs, her cultivation progressed rapidly. More than her cultivation level, Guin was more concerned about her achievements in the primordial earth immortal skill and the limitless freedom step. Cultivation level is the main trunk of the tree, but spells and divine skills are the branches and leaves. Both are indispensable. Tian Yaoer was very proud of her cultivation achievements, holding her delicate nose high, looking quite complacent. Guin was worried she might slack off, so he spoke about the cultivation progress of An Hao and Yang Jian, though he didn't mention their names, only referring to them as two disciples. As she listened, Tian Yaoer's head gradually lowered. Tian Qing and Tian Bai, sitting on either side of Guin, listened as if they were hearing a story, occasionally exclaiming, making Tian Yaoer feel even worse. When Guin finished, Tian Yaoer pouted and said, "What's so great about them? Sooner or later, it'll surpass them." Guin laughed and said, "You are also considered my disciple. Why don't you formally acknowledge me as your master?" "No way. Absolutely not." Tian Yaoer stood up immediately, excitedly speaking with her eyes wide open and her teeth gritting, looking somewhat demonic rather than her usual cute self. Guin helplessly said, "Why are you so agitated? If not, then not. I am unwilling to accept anyway." Tian Yaoer sat down and turned her head away. Tian Qing chuckled and said, "The young lady doesn't want to be a disciple. She wants to be the mistress." Hearing this, Tian Yaoer's pretty face turned a bright red. She wasn't angry, and Guin noticed that she stealthily gave a thumbs up to Tian Qing, a very concealed action hiding under her sleeves. Tian Bai joined in the fun, teasing Tian Yaoer. Tian Yaoer tried to clear it up, but the more she explained, the worse it got. Guin watched their stage performance and secretly sighed. "Looks like I need to help them improve their acting skills in the future. It's too clumsy. It won't be reliable to let them handle tasks." That night, at their persistent request, Guin chose to stay overnight. Under the tree, Guin leaned against the trunk, holding a book in his hands. Tian Yaoer was reading Journey to the West, but her mind was entirely on him. She looked at the mask on Guin's face, wanting to take it off, but afraid Guin would get angry. Though their relationship was already close, she always feared losing everything. Even when acting spoiled, she gauged Guin's tone, afraid of his displeasure. "You want to take off my mask?" Guin suddenly asked. Tian Yaoer instinctively wanted to deny it, but couldn't help nodding upon hearing his gentle tone. Upon hearing this, Guin took off his mask and placed it on Tian Yaoer's face. Tian Yaoer hurriedly pulled off the mask, thinking Guin was teasing her, only to realize that Guin hadn't put on another mask. Seeing Guin's handsome face, she was stunned. Because Guin always wore a mask, she always thought the worst, imagining he had an ugly or frightening face. She didn't expect such good looks. The reason Guin was willing to remove his mask was that after so many years of interaction, Tian Yaoer was already completely isolated from external causes and effects. Even if she knew his true face, it wouldn't matter. Of course, the most important reason was that he was strong enough. Though not unmatched in the world, he could at least face all causes and effects on this land. "I know you've always wanted to see my face. Tonight, I'm letting you be happy. From tonight onwards, you must work harder in your cultivation. Stop overthinking. Since I've accepted you, I will not abandon you. You are destined to be the longest companion with me. Look to the long term. One day, I will take you out to travel and see the world. Like the green bull spirit under Lord Lao Zi of the great monad in Journey to the West, it could trouble Sun Wukong. I hope you can also stand alone in the future. Your strength is my honor." Guin spoke sincerely. These words were from his heart. Be it in Hao or Yang Jian, one day they would eventually leave him. Yilan also had her own cultivation journey. Regardless of how many years she had left, Tian Yaoer, with a maximum lifespan of 18,000 years, was the one who could accompany him the longest. Tian Yaoer was deeply moved after hearing this. She nodded heavily and said, "Master, don't worry. I won't let you down. I will also train Tian Qing and Tian Bai well. I am your honor. They are my honor. If they can become top experts in the world, it will make you even prouder." Guin laughed and said, "Just like what's written in the Supreme Immortal Venerable? In the future, if they offend others and need you to step in, which forces me to step in." Tian Yaoer giggled and said, "Yes, beat the small ones first, then the big ones. You're the older one." Nonsense. Your master will always be young. You do look young. They started chatting, envisioning the future. Gun also enjoyed talking. He could only talk about the future with Tian Yaoer. It was impossible with others around him because they didn't know his cultivation level. Even if they knew, how could mortals talk about the future with immortals? It's not that he didn't want to, but it was hard to connect on the same level. The next morning, Gun arrived at the third Medicine Valley. As soon as he stepped off the transmission array platform, the Nine-Finger Divine Lord greeted him, trying to pull him, but he quickly withdrew and asked in a deep voice, "Senior, what do you want to do?" The Nine-Finger Divine Lord withdrew his hand, coughed, and said, "I want to have another game with you, a best of 3. He also realized he was a bit presumptuous, but felt Guan's reaction was too excessive. If he intended to harm Guan wouldn't be able to escape. Little did he know, Guan wasn't afraid of being harmed by him, but was afraid of accidentally shocking him to death. In the face of Taoist gang primal energy, the Nine-Finger Divine Lord and Guoguhong made no difference. "All right, let's play," Guan said with a stern face. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord didn't mind and turned to lead the way. "Today, they'll defeat you utterly," Guan thought to himself. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord had almost cost him a wandering immortal's life and must be properly punished. Half an incense sticks time later, Guan stood up and stretched. The disciples around noticed the Nine-Finger Divine Lord's grim face and dispersed, leaving only the two of them under the tree. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord stared at the chessboard, his eyes vacant. He couldn't accept this reality. In the distance, Li Lingtian stood beside Yang Jian, curiously asking, "Who is that Taoist? He seems quite extraordinary." Yang Jian replied, "He is an elder of the Supreme Sect. Do you think his background is significant or not?" After speaking, he turned around and continued sweeping the grounds. Li Lingtian observed the Nine-Finger Divine Lord and thought to himself that the elders of the Supreme Sect should be quite powerful. Shouldn't they? Why not find an opportunity to spar with him? Li Lingtian urgently needed a victory to build his confidence. The cultivation of other disciples in the valley was too weak to mention. He couldn't bypass Yang Jian to challenge Guan, so he set his sights on the Nine-Finger Divine Lord. This old man liked playing chess with mortals. Maybe he could also spar with him, a junior. He could ask him to suppress his cultivation realm to the core formation realm. He wanted to see if he could fight across realms. Although losing to Yang Jian deeply frustrated him, he didn't think he lacked talent. He just chose the wrong opponent. He didn't believe he could choose wrong twice. If he couldn't even beat senior brother Gu in chess, then he surely wouldn't be better in combat. Thinking of this, Li Lingtian showed a silly smile on his face. Under the tree, the Nine-Finger Divine Lord lifted his head and looked at Guan, asking in a deep voice, "Impossible. I shouldn't have lost to you. Who exactly are you?" He was a wandering immortal. Why did he lose? Guan looked up and smiled smugly, saying, "I am an immortal. What do you say to that?" "An immortal?" "Exactly. You can call me the chess immortal." "Get lost." TCH. Guan turned and left, his sleeves brushing away. Watching his back, the Nine-Finger Divine Lord revealed a bitter smile. No matter how he looked at it, Guan didn't seem like a disguised great cultivator. Though his cultivation was at the level of a wandering immortal, his vision far surpassed that realm. He couldn't help but shift his gaze back to the chessboard. Could it be that he hadn't truly understood the game of Go? Even after deducing countless possibilities, so what? Go is all about variability. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord furrowed his brows, falling into deep thought. Spring passed, and summer came, and the temperature of the world continued to rise. On this day, Guan brought Yang Jian and Li Lingtian to Tianya Valley. He rode on the back of the Blood Prison Great Saint's Bull, slowly moving forward. Li Lingtian followed behind, dispirited. Obviously, they could fly, but instead they had to walk. Was senior brother Gu intentionally tormenting him? But seeing Yang Jian walk calmly, he could only endure. He couldn't lose to Yang Jian in this regard. Rumble, thunder roared in the distance, and Li Lingtian turned back to see storm clouds churning on the horizon. Yang Jian seemed to sense something, stopped, turned back to look. and frowned deeply. Li Lingtian walked over and asked in confusion, "What's wrong?" Yang Jian ignored him, turned, and followed the blood prison great saint. Li Lingtian felt hurt. Yang Jian's indifference always made him frustrated. He understood that in Yang Jian's eyes, he wasn't worth mentioning. Yes, if he were Yang Jian, he wouldn't talk much with someone significantly weaker either. Yang Jian came up to Guan and asked, "Master, I have an uneasy feeling as if something big is going to happen." Guan replied, "Perhaps indeed a disaster is looming." Yang Jian asked in confusion, "Could it be that the seven-star spirit realm hasn't given up?" Guan didn't answer but instructed, "Carefully sense it. I want to know what you can feel." Chapter 258, Immortal King's True Blood. After hearing the master's instructions, Yang Jian calmed his mind and carefully sensed the surroundings. His steps didn't stop as he followed the blood prison great saint. Li Lingtian followed behind, secretly curious. He frequently looked back at the thunder clouds in the sky, but he couldn't feel anything, which made him very frustrated. Could it be that he didn't even have as much insight as Yang Jian? The speed at which the thunder clouds swept across the sky was fast. Before Guan and the others reached Tianya Valley, the thunder clouds had already swept over their heads, with torrential rain about to pour down. Yang Jian looked up at Guan and said, "Master, I feel the breath of destruction. Everything in heaven and earth might be annihilated." These words made Li Lingxian's expression strange. Is it really that mystical? He suddenly thought that Guan was not simple, profound, and unfathomable. Could Guan be hiding even greater secrets? Was it because the emperor and the crown prince knew something that they favored senior brother Gu? Li Lingtian pondered. Guan didn't continue the conversation, but patted the blood prison great saint's ox back, urging him to sprint. "Let's see who gets to Tianya Valley first." Guan left these words, and the blood prison great saint leapt forward, with the ox hooves creating wind, moving majestically, quickly rushing out of the forest. Yang Jian and Li Lingtian hurried to catch up. At the mention of a competition, Li Lingtian got excited, but to his dismay, he found himself indeed the slowest. Yang Jian was one thing, but what was the background of this uncouth ox head, and why was it so fast? Inside Tianya Valley, Guan dismounted from the blood prison great saint's back and led Yang Jian toward the cluster of pavilions. Li Lingtian didn't follow. His gaze was fixed on the blood prison great saint, his eyes bloodshot. The blood prison great saint raised his ox head, glanced at him disdainfully, and spat out a word that nearly drove him mad. "Trash!" Li Lingtian was livid, watching the blood prison great saint's back, wanting to curse back, but the words were stuck in his throat and wouldn't come out. He suddenly started doubting his life. Was he really trash? Sure, he was stronger than many, surpassing disciples of Medicine Valley and the Royal Palace. But in the grand scheme of the world, how big were those places? He remembered Gu N's words, "There's always someone better out there." The more Li Lingtian thought about it, the more bewildered he became, standing dazedly in place. This time, Guan brought Yang Jian because Li Xiandao wanted to meet him. He wasn't afraid of Li Xiandao's scheming, having gotten to know him over the years. He respected Li Zuando's character, and since they were like-minded individuals, they always believed themselves to be the strongest. When Li Xiandao saw Yang Jian, he was amazed by his talent and growing fond of him. He was very enthusiastic in his questioning, showing extreme concern, which Guan thought surpassed his previous treatment of himself. When Li Lingtian entered the courtyard and saw this scene, he felt even worse. After chatting for over an ancient hour, Li Xiandao decided to give Yang Jian a gift, asking what he wanted. Yang Jian instinctively looked at Guan, which intrigued Li Xiandao. What had Guan done to enamor Yang Jian like this? He had always believed that someone more formidable was behind Guan, and that Guan was just a guise. He had suspected Guan of hiding his strength, but having known him since the age of 15, nothing could have been faked. Knowing Li Zuando's identity, Yang Jian said, "I would like a weapon I can wield comfortably heavier but not too large. Li Xiandao laughed. Are you serious, Yang Jian? Yang Jian, showing an embarrassed look for the first time, nodded in agreement. Li Xiandao immediately agreed, promising to give him a satisfactory weapon within 3 years. In the end, Li Xiandao didn't extend any invitations or try to recruit Yang Jian. Guan, who had earlier considered recruiting Yang Jian for the military, realized he had been overthinking. As Guan prepared to leave, Li Xiandao instructed Li Lingtian to continue following him. Guan didn't refuse, thinking that in the Third Medicine Valley, with so many people, one more mouth wouldn't matter. Li Xiandao likely didn't expect him to guide Li Lingtian in anything specific. Cranes flew across the sky in rows, and the sea breeze blew into the Immortal Seeking Island. Guan walked through the streets with Yang Jian, and Hu Shaojian led them beside Guan. Today marked Gu An's first time bringing Yang Jian to Immortal Seeking Island, where Yang Jian looked around in amazement, finding everything novel. He was curious about how far this island was from the Supreme Sect. Guan instructed Hu Shaojian to introduce Immortal Seeking Island to Yang Jian. Hu Shaojian enthusiastically complied, leaving a good impression on Yang Jian. The more Yang Jian learned about Immortal Seeking Island, the more astonished he became. Compared to the Supreme Sect, Immortal Seeking Island seemed like a place of true immortals, with so many immortals coming and going frequently. As Hu Shaojian introduced the island, he also guided Guan to purchase high-rank medicinal herb seeds. 2 ancient hours later, Guan brought them to Sage Tanghai's residence. Over the years, Hu Shaojian had become one of Gu An's people. During Gu An's absences, Sage Tanghai had taken good care of him, so he was familiar with the residence. Today, many Immortal Path cultivators were in the residence, with more than 10 loose immortals and over 40 in the Nirvana realm. These cultivators were Sage Tanghai's friends, who were all familiar with Guan. Not only was Guan a loose immortal, but his wealth was also astonishing. He wasn't born a genius. His talent was crafted by his master, changing his fate against heaven. So he always feared that everything he had could disappear. His mentality was quite similar to Tian Yaoer. Noticing Yang Jian's gaze, Guan didn't respond. After a while, Sage Tanghai appeared, greeted everyone, and began explaining the purpose of the gathering. It concerned the sea-breaking rift. Upon hearing these 5 words, the cultivators began discussing fervently. Sage Tanghai scanned the room and said in a low voice, I received information that at the bottom of the sea-breaking rift lies a hidden world, dangerous yet containing the cave of an ancient immortal king. In the deep-sea spirit palace, someone obtained the immortal king's true blood, transforming their body and comprehending divine skills, and it was by these skills they fought their way out. The cultivators couldn't help but be moved. No one knew the realm of an immortal king, but throughout history, they were always the zenith of the immortal path, with only the greatest of each era qualifying to become immortal kings. Such an opportunity, how could they not be tempted? The higher the cultivation, the more one needed such opportunities. The loose immortals present may be high and mighty on Immortal Seeking Island, but when it came to higher realms, they had no direction. Not just breaking major realms, even breaking a minor realm depended on fortune and opportunity. I plan to explore it, and those willing to join may sign up. I will share the information when we depart. This is extremely dangerous, and I can't guarantee safety. Think it over carefully. There is no obligation based on our relationships. Sage Tanghai spoke sincerely. Over the years, besides holding auctions, he had occasionally organized such expeditions. Though not always successful, there were no bad rumors about him, and his character was trustworthy. The cultivators began discussing among themselves. Sage Tanghai did not specifically invite Guan, as every attendee was personally invited. Once inside, Guan wasn't particularly significant. In fact, everyone was equally important. Ultimately, Guan didn't sign up, while a third of the attendees did, while more chose to avoid the risks due to their long lifespans. After the gathering concluded, Guan led Yang Jian back. Returning to the third Medicine Valley, Yang Jian still felt like it was a dream. This journey had been too surreal, broadening his horizons. This world was vast, and the Supreme Sect was just a drop in the ocean. Guan began to patrol the Medicine Valley, picking the matured herbs. He wondered if he could accumulate 100 million years of lifespan before the calamity struck. From his current perspective, the sea-breaking rift wasn't enough to shake the great heavenly spirit land, which harbored many terrifying forces. Especially after cultivating immortality, the weight of love was even smaller. So-called love itself began with desire. Cultivating immortality and cultivating the mind naturally could control physical desires, but spiritual desires would become greater. In the early years, Yilan had thrived in the outer disciple deacon hall, and she still had a desire for power in her heart. However, this desire was less important compared to her regard for Guan, which made her very hesitant. Hearing Gu An's words, Yilan felt reasonable, nodded, and said teasingly, "If I leave, won't you, senior brother, feel more at ease?" Guan said indignantly, "What are you talking about? I feel at ease whether you are here or not." Yilan couldn't help but lightly hit him. Guan reminded her not to slack off in her practice after going to the subsect. The senior brother and sister chatted and began to reminisce about the past. As dusk approached, Yilan left. Guan had just sat down at his desk and was about to flip through a book when he suddenly sensed something. He directed his divine sense towards the great Jiang dynasty. The long-hidden primordial Taoist talisman had finally made a move. It merged into the abdomen of a woman from a Ji family branch, which surprised Gu and was this considered reincarnation. After reaching the carefree primordial immortal realm, Guan could already spy on the yin-yang rules of the world, but he still couldn't see where reincarnation was. Those souls would rise into the sky within 7 days after death, disappear after reaching a certain height, and those that did not rise within 7 days would turn into vengeful spirits, repelled by the heaven and earth rules. To survive, they had to harm living spirits and absorb their essence energy to enhance their ghostly energy, growing stronger step by step. After Ji Xiaoyu's death, her soul had been hiding in the primordial Taoist talisman, unlike other ghosts who persecuted living beings. Under Gu An's watch, the primordial Taoist talisman completely merged with the woman's aura, as if it had disappeared out of thin air. Who knew if this Ji Xiaoyu would have the memories of her past life? Guan remembered that Ji Xiaoyu had seemed mature beyond her years as a child, unlike normal children. Perhaps she had always retained her past life memories, but had hidden them well. After watching for a while, Guan withdrew his gaze. The moonlight was slightly cool, and the evening breeze blew in through the window, moving Gu An's sideburns. This breeze lasted another 10 years. 10 years passed, the world changed greatly, and the territories of the 3 dynasties were unified. Only the Taitsong dynasty remained, and for the people, it was truly peace under heaven. Taitsong focused on development, exploring the world by sea and mining resources in the north. With the increase in resources, all industries within the dynasty flourished. The Blood Prison Great Saint's speed was very fast, and they soon arrived in front of the Heavenly Repair Platform. Compared to 10 years ago, the Heavenly Repair Platform was even more bustling, with cultivators of varying cultivation levels, from the Qi cultivation realm to loose immortal realm, on the platform. Yes, there were loose immortals, and not just one. They all came from overseas. They first expressed their respect to the sword Venerable Fu Dao, and then openly ascended to the Heavenly Repair Platform to comprehend the sword intent of the sword Venerable Fu Dao. Years ago, Guan had secretly enhanced the sword intent contained within the words Righteous Path. Guan dismounted and walked up to the Heavenly Repair Platform. The Bull Demon King did not ascend the platform, as mounts and demon pets were not permitted to ascend, for fear of offending the sword venerable Fudao. At this moment, more and more people were gathering around the heaven-cutting axe. The news had spread that an overseas loose immortal had come to challenge the heaven-cutting axe. Over the years, loose immortals were no longer a mysterious term within the Supreme Sect. Many people knew that loose immortals represented a realm, signifying immortals and the highest realm they currently recognized. Why currently? Because the immortal cultivation world's development speed was too fast. Who knew if a higher realm name might emerge in 10 years? Of course, the Mahayana realm was still a revered existence. Zhuo Yijian stood beside the heaven-cutting axe, holding the investiture of the gods. Although his eyes were on the book, he was clearly distracted. This overseas loose immortal was the person Lu Lingjun had brought, her master whom she had worshipped at sea. Guan joined the crowd and used lifespan detection on that person. Holy Mother of Western Spirit, loose immortal realm, 8th floor, 18907/24000/15000. A maximum lifespan of 150,000 years meant that the Holy Mother of Western Spirit could reach the wandering immortal realm. Even in the sea area where Immortal Seeking Island was located, wandering immortals were exalted beings, rarely seen. The Holy Mother of Western Spirit wore a purple robe, with long white hair tied up under a bejeweled golden crown. A green scarf coiled around her elbow. Standing there, she exuded a vast pressure, inspiring awe. Although she had white hair, her appearance was youthful and beautiful, though her imposing presence made it easy to overlook this. The Holy Mother of Western Spirit approached the heaven-cutting axe and examined it closely. She came to this continent specifically for Sword Venerable Fudao. This was one of the reasons she took Lu Lingjun as her disciple. Overseas, great cultivators had a deeper understanding of the destruction of the Seven Stars spirit realm. Sword Venerable Fudao was undoubtedly the most powerful cultivator she had heard of so far. How could she not be interested? Zhuo Yijian, seeing her hesitation, said impatiently, "Hurry up. There are people waiting. When the ancient hour arrives, not even the Lord of a holy land can make an exception. Loose immortal or whatever immortal, in the Supreme Sect, everyone had to follow the rules." The Holy Mother of Western Spirit was not angered. She raised her right hand, her snow-white palm reaching out to grasp the heaven-cutting axe. She could feel that the weight was not from the heaven-cutting axe itself, but from the vast mana within it. After 2 attempts, she gave up and turned to leave. This disappointed the spectators. There was little commotion. They didn't expect the Holy Mother of Western Spirit to succeed, just wanted to see the lofty immortal in a moment of embarrassment. Lu Lingjun exchanged a few words with the Holy Mother of Western Spirit, and then was about to leave when her eyes suddenly caught Guan. "Why are you here?" Lu Lingjun transmitted her voice to Guan while waving to him. Chapter 260. Astonishing Heaven and Sea Waves. Terrifying treasure body. Seeing Lu Lingjun wave her hand, Guan could only walk up to her. He cupped his fists and saluted the Holy Mother of Western Spirit, as basic courtesies should at least be observed with a loose immortal. The Holy Mother of Western Spirit slightly nodded, without saying anything. Lu Lingjun then pulled Guan along, and after descending from the heavenly repair platform, she took a storage bag from her waist belt and handed it to him. "I won't be returning to Medicine Valley. This is something I brought for you from overseas," Lu Lingjun said softly. Guan nodded and did not question what she planned to do next. He simply told her if she ever needed his help, she could always find him in the 3rd Medicine Valley. Lu Lingjun smiled, then left with the Holy Mother of Western Spirit. Watching Lu Lingjun's departing figure, Guan thought that it seemed she was gradually distancing herself from the 3rd Medicine Valley. After all, she was now the sect leader, and how could she possibly reside long-term in Medicine Valley, let alone have her loose immortal master live with servant disciples? The blood prison great saint walked over, secretly surprised. His master claimed to be a loose immortal, but a loose immortal could not possibly lift the heaven-cutting axe. He asked no more questions, thinking it was better for Gu and to be stronger, as it meant his current situation was a blessing rather than a curse. Guin turned and left, planning to wander around the outer gate city. He could feel that the Holy Mother of Western Spirit's arrival was aimed at Sword Venerable Fudao, and earlier she had tried to lift the heaven-cutting axe, intending to connect with Sword Venerable Fudao. But he had no desire to meet the Holy Mother of Western Spirit. It was easy to guess that it probably had to do with the sea-breaking rift. 10 years had passed, and the disaster caused by the sea-breaking rift had only grown worse. Besides mysterious fierce demons, these years had also seen the appearance of beings called divine, exotic, resentful ghosts from the sea-breaking rift. Divine, exotic, resentful ghosts were immortal and could only be sealed. There were sects that had been massacred by these beings. The most fearsome thing was that a wandering, immortal great cultivator from the Star Sea congregations had ventured into the sea-breaking rift, turned into a divine, exotic, resentful ghost, returned to the sea, acted recklessly, and slaughtered countless souls, forcing the Star Sea congregations to use Immortal Path's supreme treasures to suppress him. Various rumors about the sea-breaking rift began to spread. Leah, who owned Divine Exotic City, was also being pressured, with many wanting to take his Divine Exotic City. But fortunately, the Star Sea congregations were strong enough to protect him. However, he had lost his freedom and was unable to leave the Star Sea congregations without permission. While the sea was a scene of bloody turmoil, the mainland remained tranquil, with everything harmonious, at least within the Supreme Sect. Guin sought out his friends in the outer sect for a drink, discussing upcoming interesting events or the romantic tales of the sect's aristocracy. The Supreme Sect was now very open, unlike the tense atmosphere of the past, and lower-level disciples discussing the great cultivators would not face retribution as a result. The noble families now cherished their reputations, fearing any scandal that would get them expelled from the Supreme Sect. With Sword Venerable Fudao present, the Supreme Sect had to abide by the rules of the righteous path. Of course, this was only within the Supreme Sect. If one offended a sect aristocrat, they might not act within the sect, but outside it, anything could happen. Until the night, Guin finally rode back to the valley on the Blood Prison Great Saint. He held a wine gourd, reciting poetry, which the Blood Prison Great Saint praised as fine verse. Guin thought he had good judgment, daring to praise any lousy poem, which was its own kind of realm. The arrival of the Holy Mother of Western Spirit did not shock the Supreme Sect, whose foundations were also quickly growing. Unless the Holy Mother of Western Spirit was coming to join the Supreme Sect, they would not mobilize for her. Another summer arrived. Guin lay under the mystic pure tree, staring at his attribute panel. His lifespan had reached 25 million years. Although it was still far from 100 million years, the number already gave him a sense of security. Nearby, the White Spirit Rat and the Blood Prison Great Saint were playing. Although the White Spirit Rat could not yet speak, its maximum lifespan was continually increasing, and its reflex speed was beyond what the Blood Prison Great Saint of the Foundation Establishment realm could match. Boom! A thunderous sound came from afar, alarming everyone in Medicine Valley. The Blood Prison Great Saint and the White Spirit Rat stopped and looked toward the horizon, their expressions tense. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord, who had been playing chess, frowned and turned to look, extending his divine sense. His face quickly grew grim. Guin was rather calm. The reason he was checking his attribute panel was that he sensed something significant was happening. Before the loud noise, a powerful force had erupted from the bottom of the sea-breaking rift, causing immense waves on either side. The waves continued to escalate and were now reaching a height of 300 zhong as they surged toward the mainland, growing larger all the time. A large number of cultivators were rushing to the scene, trying to prevent the catastrophe. Upon hearing it concerned Yang Jian, The immortal-seeking Taoist lost interest in questioning how Guan knew he was on the island and asked about the issue instead. Guan did not hold anything back. After listening, the immortal-seeking Taoist's expression became complicated. He sighed and said, "Ancient treasure bodies have a self-protection instinct. His treasure body must have sensed danger, likely related to the sea-breaking rift. There may be another treasure body hidden there. I have heard that ancient treasure bodies have a competitive and perceptive nature among themselves, especially innate ancient treasure bodies which can sense each other's existence and will attempt to devour one another. If that treasure body does come from the sea-breaking rift, it might be a deceased ancient strongman who has turned into a divine, exotic, resentful ghost. In that case, it will be a big problem." He had returned to Immortal-Seeking Island to avoid catastrophe. At this moment, he even considered fleeing Immortal-Seeking Island because he feared Gu and might bring Yang Jian along. Admiration aside, the Immortal-Seeking Taoist would not die for Yang Jian. Not his disciple. Even if it were his disciple, he would abandon them. The Immortal-Seeking Taoist looked at Gu and, hesitating to speak, wanted to persuade Guan to give up on Yang Jian, but he felt that saying so would be pointless. Guan would weigh the situation himself, and saying more would only make him unhappy. Guan became thoughtful. The tsunami that had erupted yesterday continued to rise. Cultivators tried to stop it, but had no success. The waves contained some powerful force that neutralized all spiritual power and mana along the way. One day passed, and the wave's crest had already surpassed 1,000 zhang. 1,000 zhang high wave was incredibly imposing, swallowing countless sea islands along its path. Currently, wandering immortals of the Star Sea congregations were still attempting to hold back the waves, but without success. The immortal-seeking Taoist saw Gu and was deep in thought and did not disturb him, leisurely playing with his wine cup. After a while, Guan thanked the immortal-seeking Taoist and then stood up to leave. The immortal-seeking Taoist did not try to keep him, realizing that Gu An's visit had provided more information. The thought of an ancient treasure body reaching completion and emerging filled him with dread. No, he had to escape. Lu Lingjun replied, "The Supreme Sect has Sword Venerable Fu Dao. He may be able to overcome this crisis." Ever since she joined the Supreme Sect, she had experienced the demon calamity and heard of Sword Venerable Fu Dao sweeping through the Seven Stars spirit realm single-handedly. She had great confidence in Sword Venerable Fu Dao. The Holy Mother of Western Spirit, however, was still worried. It's hard to say. She came to the Supreme Sect intending to rely on the power of Sword Venerable Fu Dao to avoid the calamity, but she had just learned that the scope of the disaster had changed, with even more powerful variables appearing. Even her sect dared not involve itself rashly. Not all sects in this world follow the righteous path. More sects aimed only to preserve their own Taoist traditions. Not just them, at this moment within the Supreme Sect, those great cultivators from the ocean were also discussing this matter. With their cultivation levels surpassing the native disciples of the Supreme Sect, they also had superior intelligence capabilities, understanding more about the approaching threat of the waves directed at their continent. Naturally, they were anxious. Their first thought was Sword Venerable Fu Dao. If the ocean cultivators could not block the waves, could Sword Venerable Fu Dao withstand them when they reached the continent's edge? Some had already chosen to flee the continent, unwilling to gamble on Sword Venerable Fu Dao's strength. Rumble. The sky thunder cracked, thunderclouds tumbling, interwoven with boundless lightning. A sea wave over 1,500 feet high advanced with a momentum to engulf everything under heaven. It seemed as if the entire sea had risen, unstoppable and imposing. Under this wave, all cultivators and demons appeared small. Qi Jiuxiao endured the storm with his armor drenched. He continually retreated, his face full of anxiety. Subconsciously, He looked back and could see the outline of the continent. At this rate, countless lives would be buried in the sea tides. This water was not ordinary seawater. It contained some strange and powerful force. Some cultivators who had been swept into it had already transformed into divine, exotic, resentful ghosts. Thinking that the entire continent's beings might turn into divine, exotic, resentful ghosts made Chi Jiuxio's scalp tingle. He looked ahead, seeing 12 figures in front of the wave. They emitted an aura far surpassing all cultivators behind them. Yet, despite their vast mana, they were being pushed back by the wave. All 12 were heaven and earth flying immortals, either the founders of sects or elders of the Starseed congregations. Facing the wave, they were all powerless. They could only slow the wave's advance, but could not suppress it. The previous dispersal of the wave by the Starseed Primordial Unity banner had only been temporary. For some reason, an absurd idea suddenly formed in Chi Jiuxio's mind. Maybe Sword Venerable Fudao never left the Supreme Sect. Otherwise, why use a long-distance means to kill the enemy? At this moment, someone shouted, "It's Sword Venerable Fudao." That direction is toward the Supreme Sect. I visited the Supreme Sect a few years ago and felt Sword Venerable Fudao's sword intent. The mention of Sword Venerable Fudao startled all the cultivators. After the seven-star spirit realm broke apart, Sword Venerable Fudao's name shook the ocean. Though not universally known, most cultivators who came to aid had high-level cultivation and somewhat knew the truth behind the disbanding of the seven-star spirit realm. If it was Sword Venerable Fudao, they could understand. With understanding came shock and excitement. Was Sword Venerable Fudao truly this powerful? A heaven and earth flying immortal raised a hand, catching a leaf. He looked at the leaf, his expression complicated. The other flying immortals also turned their gaze toward the leaf, feeling the residual sword intent from it. Before they could speak, the leaf suddenly turned to ashes, as if it had never existed. Guin returned to the Third Medicine Valley with the Blood Prison Great Saint, wandering around as the Great Saint's gaze followed him, eyes full of complex emotions. The waves within his heart were difficult to calm. As Guin walked, he was puzzled. It didn't yield any lifespan. Could it be that slaying the divine, exotic, resentful ghosts provided no lifespan? Did immortality mean having no lifespan in the first place? Though Guin felt regret, at least he had stopped a catastrophe. However, he had a feeling this was only the beginning. Stronger calamities were likely to emerge from the sea-breaking rift. What kind of being would come next? At this moment, Yu Ying suddenly approached him and said, "Guin, in preparing to return to the Star Sea congregations." Guin asked why. With a great catastrophe approaching, it's definitely safer back with the Star Sea congregations. I find you pretty agreeable, so are you coming with me? No one else can come, Yu Ying said, glaring at him. Guin shook his head. I want go. My cultivation level is too low to survive in the Star Sea congregations. If the Supreme Sect were to fall tomorrow, I would rather disappear with it. In the distance, the Blood Prison Great Saint couldn't help but roll his eyes. The master fooling a simpleton again. Yu Ying opened her mouth, but in the end, said nothing. She patted Gu In's shoulder and turned to pack her things. Guin had no intention of stopping her. It was a good thing for Yu Ying to return to the Star Sea congregations early, as it prevented her from causing him trouble. Yu Ying had a strange cause and effect within her, suppressing her talent and lifespan. Guin couldn't see through this cause and effect for the time being, so he didn't want to get too involved with her. If he got too emotionally attached, he would have to help her eventually, which would be too troublesome. Receiving Sword Venerable Fudao's favor, it seemed that heaven favored the supreme sect. If such a strong person lived in the Starseed congregations, how great would that be? As Guin listened, he felt something was amiss. Why was she telling him this? Could she have guessed that he was Sword Venerable Fu Dao? For a moment, Guin felt apprehensive towards Yu Yingying. Yu Yingying had no idea of Guin's thoughts. She just said whatever came to mind and never considered whether Guin might be Sword Venerable Fu Dao. After a long while, Yu Yingying, having fully vented her desire to share, left with a pleased heart. Guin watched her back, thinking it a pity he could not use this opportunity to shake her off. Considering her great admiration for Sword Venerable Fu Dao, he decided to let her stay a bit longer. In the following days, the entire Supreme Sect revolved around discussions of Sword Venerable Fu Dao, and with many ocean cultivators in the sect, news of the divine, exotic, resentful ghost also spread. Indestructible and immortal, devouring living spirits. Divine, exotic, resentful ghosts were transformed from living spirits. Just hearing this was terrifying. It is worth mentioning that Yu Yingying went to the outer gate city every day to preach the might of Sword Venerable Fu Dao. She felt that some things needed to be clearly stated so that the Supreme Sect could more greatly revere Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Every time Sword Venerable Fu Dao acted, the number of cultivators on the Heavenly Repair platform increased dramatically. This made Zui Yijian, who guarded the heaven-cutting axe, even busier, but he was not tired. Rather, he became more energetic and proud. He now considered himself one of Sword Venerable Fu Dao's people. After all, Sword Venerable Fu Dao had patted him on the shoulder. Who could have such an honor? Guin observed numerous sects gathering above the sea-breaking rift, and from a glance, the number of cultivators already exceeded 5 million and was still growing. It seemed the sea-breaking rift had caused widespread panic in the ocean. His gaze shifted upward, noticing more and more heaven and earth flying immortals arriving in the great heavenly spirit land. Clearly, the major oceanic powers were calling in reinforcements. This is a good thing. However, Guin recalled something. Would the increasing number of cultivators providing support lead to a rise in divine, exotic, resentful ghosts? He could only pray those sects could resolve the deep-seated trouble in the sea-breaking rift on their own. He was not the protagonist of this heavenly destiny. He could not be relied upon to solve everything, right? He thought it should not come to that. This land was filled with immortal spirit dynasties, and there was a mysterious continent capable of resisting his divine sense with its chi fortune. Furthermore, Guin had also seen many transcendent powers before, none of which Starseed congregations, or seven-star spirit realm, could compare to. Starseed congregations were rulers of the ocean, but there were many rulers. With Guin's realm, he could already glimpse the chi fortune of sects and forces, and from the strength of the chi fortune, the Supreme Sect was less than 1/10,000th of the Starseed congregations, and the Starseed congregations were likewise less than 1/10,000th of that immortal spirit dynasty. Guin guessed those true first-rate powers of the world also had deployments in outer heaven. They could access more resources, nothing the Starseed congregations could compare to. The commotion caused by Sword Venerable Fu Dao did not affect Guin. However, he began spending more time teaching Yang Jian. Ever since he dispersed the waves, Yang Jian had been experiencing more frequent visions, seriously affecting his cultivation. Once, while Guin was instructing Yang Jian in his cultivation, Yang Jian suddenly fell into a daze. Guin had to shake him awake, drenched in cold sweat. Yang Jian had seen himself being devoured, utterly powerless to resist, and the intense pain was not an illusion but a real sensation to his flesh. Unfortunately, Guin could not deduce the source of the visions through cause and effect. Time passed day by day. The year-end arrived. Winter snow covered the land and mountains. In the forest 100 miles outside Mystic Valley, Guin was instructing Yang Jian in the limitless freedom step. Yang Jian possessed high talent and comprehension, but limitless freedom step was equally profound. Mastering it was challenging even for him. After a maneuver, Yang Jian almost crashed into a tree, but he stabilized himself just in time. He turned to look at Guin, about to speak, but suddenly frowned. He clutched his head with both hands and unexpectedly knelt in the snow. Guin sensed something was wrong and immediately used his mana to isolate this section of the forest, preventing any unusual occurrences from alarming the Supreme Sect. He approached Yang Jian and placed his right hand on Yang Jian's shoulder, using his own mana to assist him. In an instant, Guin felt an unknown force of cause and effect attacking. He could resist, but he hesitated for a moment and pretended to be affected. His mind was drawn into a mysterious illusion realm, with Yang Jian's consciousness present as well. Yang Jian sighed in relief upon seeing his master's figure beside him. He was about to speak, but suddenly felt something and turned his head. Ahead, a pitch-black shadow appeared, walking out from the expansive snow, seemingly wearing some kind of armor based on its shape. Mystic Gang Dominator body, a rare sight in a million years. A cold voice echoed from the front, filled with greed. Listening closely, it seemed to swallow something, chilling those who heard it to their bones. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.